contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It's not a happy Wednesday, Dom.
Come on, man. Happy Wednesday, Crudy. The cup is always half full, even in times of challenge. We can see the good things. We can learn from mistakes past and move Wisconsin forward with our thumbs.
Kiss my ass. This was a debacle of the left. Terrible outcome.
Come on.
I had this foreboding feeling for weeks. I knew this was coming. I can't say I knew it. There was no definite prediction. I certainly was not rooting against the candidate Lisa Neubauer.
Hell no.
We liked her.
Yes.
She should be a Supreme Court justice in the great state of Wisconsin.
Yes, she should.
Warm. Seemed very competent. Seemed prepared to serve on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Instead, we're going to have a gay-hating Scott Walker crony, Brian Hagedorn. And he has declared victory, and I think he has every justification for doing so. He is the victor.
Well, so far. What, did he win by 5,000, 6,000 votes? Maybe do a recount. Maybe there's some left. Maybe there's a flash drive. Maybe there'll be a Waukesha moment with Kloppenburg. Maybe there'll be something to come out of the woodwork. Maybe there's something we didn't, that the Dems didn't count.
Buddy, when I saw the margin last night go below 10,000 votes, I'm thinking, oh my God, here we go again.
Yeah.
We're in recount territory. I'm having flashbacks to 2011. My head's pounding. I was drinking alone by the TV, by the warm, reassuring light of the TV. But It wasn't reassuring me, Tom.
No.
It was depressing me. I was up way too late.
From the moment I turned on the news and started paying attention, around 9 o'clock or so, and I saw that she had Neubauer had a fairly sizable lead, but obviously there's like 40, 50% of the count was in. And I saw a lot of Milwaukee and I saw a lot of Madison in. I was immediately concerned. And from that moment, that gap, that lead obviously just shrunk.
Diminished throughout the course of the evening.
Ultimately, Neubauer apparently did not win.
She lost.
She did not win.
She lost.
When you say it like that, it sounds so bad. No,
Brian
she
Hagedorn
didn't win.
Won. And we'll talk about the winners and the losers.
Oh, yeah.
I may cast a little blame, Tom.
Whatever do you mean?
I may name a few names. I may name a few names. I've got plenty of opinions to offer. I want to hear from the audience as well today. They're very important to us, Tom, because my opinions are shaped and formed by the audience's opinions in so many different cases. Although I do a little independent research.
Yeah.
I would point out the audience of this fine program, very, very plugged in. We had, over 20,000 engagements with our Facebook page yesterday? That seems like a lot. Just a random big number, but it's a true random big number. And it seems like a lot of people were engaged in the political process, but not in Milwaukee, Don.
Oh, what happened?
What
happened? We're going to write a book now. What happened? What happened? What happened?
What happened is Milwaukee did not get out and vote.
Hey, what happened?
Yeah, there we go. Milwaukee did not get out and vote, not for Lisa Neubauer, not in the same numbers that they did for Rebecca Dallin. In fact, the margin of victory for Hagedorn is just modestly larger than the depressed turnout here in Milwaukee, Tom. But that's my fault, apparently.
That's your fault?
Some would say. Some might think.
Listen, ultimately, it's Listen, no matter what happens in a campaign, Crudy, I always and we talk about the machinations and media and consulting and how all these things work. And if I ever ran for office, I'd have to call someone. What do we need? Maybe get a consultant. I mean, I know a lot of things, Crudy. I've learned a lot over the years, but sometimes you call the experts, you call the property manager, you call the tax accountant, you just call
the FCC attorney,
the people,
call the structural engineer. I know I've called a lot of expensive people. Sure,
you know what I'm saying. So you rely perhaps a little bit on the experts, and what you do and the advice they give you and the counsel you receive. Ultimately, it's up to the candidate to determine whether or not to follow that advice, to rely how much to rely on the professionals, quote unquote, that surround you. Now, I think Lisa Neubauer is a fantastic person. I thought she was a fantastic candidate. I think she would make a fantastic justice on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. But we didn't see enough of her, we only had to run. We had to run what, twice?
Twice.
And the last time being, of course, yesterday.
Election day at 3:30 in the afternoon. A little too little, too late.
Polls are still open, at least at that time.
Earl got a 15-minute phone call. Sherwin, nothing. No reach out from the campaign.
No,
I had to beg to get her on. I did. I literally had to have a tantrum on the phone. And you know how I get, Tom. I'm a small, petty man in many ways. But I had to beg. I had to say, what are you waiting for?
Right.
You still need to give our audience an opportunity to meet her. It's one thing to say vote against. I'm not a big believer in vote against. I'm a believer in vote for. Give me a human being. Sure, she's not getting into the minutia of every piece of jurisprudence. They never do. They never can. Not her, not Ann Walsh-Bradley.
But get out there. Be seen. Be amongst the people. We are the people, Crudy. And I look at, what happened last time. Rebecca Dallett. Again, another, as the right would say, progressive liberal on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. But, Rebecca Dallett was all over the place all the time. She came around here a lot. She was
a dozen times or more. She appeared on the station.
Very visible. I mean, I think that helped. I mean, you're running for an office. You need voters. You need, I think, the candidates need to be seen, be heard, be touched all the time, everywhere.
Talk radio is about repetition, about getting the message out over and over again. Well, Dom, I've got plenty of opinions and a few aspersions to cast, perhaps later. And I will even take a little blame in this whole process, Dom. I blame me. I blame you as well.
Yeah, I take no blame in this.
Here's why I blame us. Here's our cross to bear. And there will be a crucifixion later as well, perhaps. But here's why we have a cross to bear. We were off last week.
Is it our fault we were off last week?
In some small part, it was. We should have been doing shows. We should have been supporting this candidate, and we should have been accentuating the fact that there was a really big election yesterday, the one we lost. And in some small part, where were we? Well, we weren't truly on vacation. You might have been. I was not. I mean, I went to Iowa. That's never a vacation. But first, we put together some studios. But with a little more forethought, maybe before the election wasn't the best week to do that. But here's what I would say in our defense, Tom, because, looking in the mirror, there's a little blame to cast right here. We weren't pounding it. But nobody acted like there was any urgency about this race. Not to us. That was not expressed. Not on a party level. Not on a campaign level.
I mean, Neubauer was the favorite going into this, right?
Buddy, this was supposed to be a gimme putt.
I know.
This was supposed to be, pick it up. 600. Just take that. But that's why I make you putt out every putt, Tom, because you're going to miss that gimme putt. And the left missed the gimme putt. And that's a 30-year mistake. Hagedorn's 41.
Oh, Hagedorn.
And once it's Justice Hagedorn, it's Justice Hagedorn for life, effectively. Incumbent justices on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, that's a lifer job. He's got that job for 30 years or more. We blew an opportunity that will affect a whole generation of Wisconsinites over 5, 6,000 votes. They couldn't have been had out there on the streets of Milwaukee where we saw a depression of 5,000 votes. Couldn't have picked those votes up. They voted for Dallas. My town did it. Madison voted. 6,000 additional votes, more than Dallas got.
Yeah, we were commenting on Dane County yesterday. It looks like the early votes, they were lower, but apparently Dane came around.
Dane turns out, man. Don't mess with my town.
What's
so the
up?
question is,
what's up, Milwaukee?
What's up, Milwaukee?
Ah!
Well, we weren't here pounding the message, Dom. Right-wing talk radio, they were pounding the message. The Milwaukee media market.
Yeah.
This was redemption for right-wing talk radio and Scott Walker. Scott Walker, one of the big winners last night.
Oh.
Scott Walker did the last 2 days filling in for Mark Belling, doing 3 hours a day of commercials for Brian Hagedorn over on Righty Whitey Talk Radio. Scott Walker, I got to tip my cap. He knows how to pound it. He was a hell of a tune-in guest. It was a hell of an infomercial for now Justice Brian Hagedorn, and could have affected maybe 5,000 more voters. Maybe. Maybe he did. Maybe he did. But I can tell you what, Milwaukee left it on the table. And the Republicans, they didn't pretend like this was a nonpartisan race.
Oh, no.
Hell, Hagedorn was associated with Scott Walker throughout this race. Hagedorn was associated with Donald Trump at the end.
And the Wisconsin GOP.
Sure. They're not afraid. They don't run away from their advocacy for their kind of judges, their kind of justices. These are very important races. They lay out the groundwork years in advance. They care about the outcomes. Democrats, well, we voted for Tony.
Tony's the governor. We got a Democrat governor now. Democratic governor. That's a beautiful thing, right? It's over. We can take a breather now because we don't have to worry anything until next year.
Or until any action that Tony Evers takes gets caught up in the Wisconsin courts and eventually finds its way to a now 5-2 conservative majority court. And next year, we're not winning back the soul of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Best case scenario, we're winning back the 4-3 minority on the court. Just so maybe that's a fair fight occasionally if someone recuses, which they never do.
Ah, come on. There's not going to be any Wisconsin Supreme Court cases between now and next year.
Here's a question I would have, and we probably need to go to break now, and we'll take plenty of your calls today. 844-967-2789. We'll have at least one fine guest today, Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen. He is running for chair of the great Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin, the once great Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin. Maybe great again in the future. Maybe we'll make it great again.
Yeah, I think you could get a hat.
Somebody needs to. But where were the Democrats? I mean, I know Martha Lanning doesn't like my ass anymore, but she could have come around and encouraged people to vote. Sent somebody from the comms department. Where's the Democratic Party? I mean, hell, what was Tony Evers' role? I know he's the sitting governor, and maybe he'll have litigation before the Wisconsin Supreme Court. I think there's a high likelihood. But the former governor's doing right-wing talk radio fill-in spots the last 2 days. They're not afraid to stand with theirs. Look at the map. Look at the electoral map from last night. It looks just like the Evers midterm map. Only this time we're the big losers left. And the recount, I hate to break hearts here, Dom.
Yeah?
That's a waste of time and money. Do not blow your money on a recount anybody. Mail it to Jill Stein. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. 844-967-2789.
I told him. I said to Bernie, they'll never make that money back.
Hey, what happened?
What an incredible Cinderella story. This unknown comes out of nowhere to lead the pack.
Well, let's give him credit. At least he didn't spike himself.
There is no God.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions, don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod. Noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes. Kim, you're on the air. How are you?
I came here from Dallas. I'm white. I was kind of amazed at how segregated Milwaukee is compared to Dallas. When people move to areas because they have, quote, better schools, I've kind of learned that's a dog whistle.
Yes, it is.
Especially up here.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know.
Us liberals don't always see it this way, but we need to.
Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio.
60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio. And the political party line is up and open. A couple spots for you. We'll take callers now. 844-967-2789.
And hopefully the audience, like I, believe this loss, this debacle for the left is all Dominic's fault.
You can't blame me. I was all in, man. I did what I could. Let's hear from the audience. Brock from HorrorCon, you are up. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us?
Hey, no problem, guys. Say, I'm wondering when they're going to figure out, instead of attacking these guys for being in bed with some right-wing kooks and white supremacists and stuff like that, they just don't go after his voting record. I'm sure there's a litany of cases where you could find stuff that would be. That is my point. The lack of record, in this case, I think could have been made a bigger issue instead of trying to. It seems like the more you try to point out, like your screener and I were talking about, the more you point out this white supremacist angle, as soon as the people realize that you keep hitting that, it seems like it empowers them or emboldens them to vote for him anyhow.
Brock,
I would go after his lack of judicial experience, just like you pointed out.
Well, Brock, and I think everyone knows by now, the right hates the gay. And if you're a conservative and you don't hate the gay, you're okay if your judge does hate the gay. I mean, you really are. No Republican refused to vote for Hagedorn because of his record on homosexuals.
The Wisconsin Realtors Association pulled their endorsement, got their money back because of the outcry of their members, and totally ignored by the Republican Party. Wisconsin Realtors Association members thereof, you should think about that next time you go vote. The Republicans don't give a damn if their judge hates the gays.
No, really, they don't mind. You know, it's all evangelical. It's all biblically sourced Leviticus and all that stuff, Dom. As long as it's in the good book, you know, that's just his personal belief. I'm sure he'll set that aside.
Well, I'll buy that when they stop blending their wools and linens. 844-967-2789. Rob from Waukesha, you're up. Thanks for calling, Rob. What do you got for us?
Hey, Rob.
Hey, guys. You know, Madison came through with 80%. Now, Milwaukee. What was the percentage in Milwaukee?
No,
I think
Madison.
Milwaukee is what failed us.
Just so you know, Madison had a better overall turnout than they did for Dallas, about 6,000 net more votes, but we had about a third as many people vote in Madison as did in the November midterms. About 30% turnout as opposed to about 90% turnout in the midterms. Ballpark math.
Well, you know, I guess
Milwaukee worse than that. Milwaukee worse than that. Milwaukee, like 62% Democratic votes. I mean, Milwaukee County went like 62% Democrat. Why is it not 99.9% Democrat? I'm not clear on that.
Well, you know what? If I was gay, I would think of leaving this state. And, you know, I don't understand the left, why they didn't jump on this election, especially with his views on homosexuality. He starts a school that's, you know, I guess it's all right in this country to discriminate against gays.
But, Rob, the people that supported Hagedorn's candidacy, you effectively reminded them he's the right kind of conservative. He hates gays like you hate gays. Anybody on the left that was going to vote for Lisa Neubauer, they weren't going to vote for, you know, the LGBT community wasn't going to come home for Hagedorn. Oh, he doesn't like gay people now. I'm not voting for him.
Let's get one more in this segment. Gary from Sussex. You got about 60 seconds, my friend. What do you got?
Gary!
I'm afraid to talk to you guys. You guys are going to chew my head off.
No, you're good.
First of all, I'm telling you something. Once you guys are totally out of your mind as far as Republicans hating anybody, let alone hating gays. We may disagree with it, but we don't hate the gays.
We don't think they have the right to their own conduct in their own bedrooms, or the right to marry, or the right to what?
Or the opportunity
adopt children,
to teach children in the wrong school.
I have no problems with that, but teaching scripture in the Bible, yeah, I would have a problem. Hiring a gay person to work at my company, I would have no problem.
Come on, Gary. What about mixing linens and wools? That's also in the Bible. Do you say the same thing, that they should not do that, yes or no?
Jesus sat and ate with the tax...
I'm cutting you off, Gary. You did not answer the question, but thanks for calling.
We've got a fine guest waiting in the wings. He is Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen. He is a candidate for chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. Something's got to change over there. Come back with us.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at domandcroot.com.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
What do basketball, choir, drama club, and marching band all have in common? They're all high school activities that offer learning opportunities not necessarily found in the classroom. They take up just a fraction of a typical Wisconsin high school's budget, and they go a long way to giving young people the tools they need to thrive. High school activities, they're more than extracurricular. They're extra important, too. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. TeamstersLocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
The 82nd Attorney General of the United States, Mr. Eric Holder.
You're talking about taking away from an Attorney General and from the executive branch, core executive branch functions, and moving them to the legislative side is something that's inconsistent with the federal Constitution and the Wisconsin state Constitution.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's the Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon on Real Resistance Radio.
For News Talk 1510 AM and 1580 AM, my name is Keith Gostad. Judge Brian Hagedorn has declared victory in the state Supreme Court race. Hagedorn's election will allow conservatives to maintain a majority on the court. The race against Lisa Neubauer remained too close to call well into the night and falls into the range of a possible recall, with both candidates receiving 50% of the vote. Meanwhile, in Madison, Satya Rhodes Conway beat incumbent Paul Soglin to become Madison's first openly LGBTQ mayor. Danielle Shelton won a seat on the Milwaukee County Circuit Court, defeating Walker-appointed incumbent judge Andrew Jones. Shelton ran a largely grassroots campaign and won 55% of the vote in Milwaukee County. The Brewers beat the Reds 4-3 in Cincinnati yesterday. They take on the Reds again today. And the Bucks are off today. They face the 76ers in Philly tomorrow night. My name is Keith Gostad.
Joe the policeman from the What's Going Down episode of That's My Mama.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. As our newest guest may have just noted, that's from Coming to America, a fine motion picture soundtrack from like 1994. David Bowen, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates.
Dare I say the best movie of all time?
It is a damn good movie. I like
that. Oh, man.
Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen. He is a candidate.
Thanks for coming down. It's always a pleasure to have you.
I got to tell you, I'm a little sour about the outcome
He's a
last
little
night.
salty today, David.
First question today, sort of a 3-word question. WTF, man?
Well, I think it's a mixed bag, right? Because we saw some amazing wins last night, and we saw a huge loss as well. So first off, let me give you some
Are we talking
some
about
butter on that bread.
Soglin, Mayor McGrumpy Pants, and Madison?
Congratulations to Satya
Yeah.
Conway Rhodes, Mayor-elect of Madison. That's a huge deal. Very decisive victory. Mayor Eric Gingrich, Green Bay. Important areas that were in play last night based on turnout and how many votes. So congrats to Eric. He came out of the assembly. I had a chance to work with him. Who else had some big wins? Danielle Shelton, Milwaukee County. Man, first black woman elected to the circuit court, county circuit court judge since 1992, over 25 years.
They made a special point to run her down on Righty Whitey Talk Radio this morning. She must be achieving things.
I'm sure. But yeah, you had a number of wins and also school board races and a number of trustee wins as well, trustee boards and local races. Let's talk about what you're sour about. Let's talk about what you're kind of sick about this morning. And that is we have a dilemma, right, where Eric wins in Green Bay. Danielle does really good in her margins. It wasn't even close in Milwaukee County of just how much she really killed it. And then, of course, we talked about Satya and winning in Madison. Madison turnout was significant. Green Bay turnout was tough. Milwaukee turnout of what it could have been was tough. And as you compare the numbers,
what's tough mean? Down?
Tough means down, right?
Okay.
Tough means
Just
that
for
we
point of
didn't fill in that gap. And I think, it's interesting because this is why I'm running for leadership of the Democratic Party. There's a strategy that we have to make sure that we aren't taking any breaks. We're not letting our foot off of the gas, right? It was just 2018 where we had a unprecedented effort in a midterm. We know how to do this, right? It is not some phantom book in a mountain that we have to go find, right? We know what to do. Were the resources there? No. You did not have the operation really built to pump out the votes, especially I saw a breakdown based on automatic district for the city. Core areas of the north and south side where a lot of people of color live did not have the support to really be able to pump those votes out.
Okay, David, here's where I'm going to disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
2.2 million votes in the fall midterms. I realize spring Supreme Court election, 1.2 million votes. We were down 5,000 votes from Dallet to Neubauer in Milwaukee. That's the tough scenario. The margin of victory is roughly 6,000 votes. So my thought is there was at least 5,000 or 6,000 more votes out there to be had. Without spending another nickel in probability, just maybe bringing the candidate round on talk radio, bringing her to the African-American host, hell, maybe taking her over to the Latino station in town. No advertising, no address to the Latino audience. We've got Joe Costa-Zamaripa on this station. She didn't get Neubauer. So my question would be didn't we leave more than 5,000 votes considering we had more than 1 million additional voters turn out, 4 months ago? And now 4 months later, we've all decided to pack it in. We the Dems, we the left, we elected Tony Evers and Tammy Baldwin, and damn it, we've done our part. Go fix stuff, right? That's not how it works, David. And that's why we lost. It is the lack of urgency on behalf of this party, my friend. And what are you going to do about it if you're elected chair? I'm a little fired up, David. I got to tell you.
All good. All good. That energy is what fuels us to win. But let's also recognize the fact that Republicans supported Brian Hagedorn. Brian Hagedorn or Brad Hagedorn? Brian, right? Okay.
Justice Hagedorn.
They expanded their electorate. That's what they did. Folks that normally didn't come out to vote in a spring election, they went with messages talking about Brett Kavanaugh, right? Talking about don't you want the Dems that are always targeting our justices and making the court not go our way? Aren't you fired up to go out and vote?
And the religious freedom argument, I think, really struck with a lot of those conservatives.
Sure. But whatever route they took to expand the electorate, that's what they did. And it was also clear looking at the numbers that, our targeting was based on the folks that normally come out during a spring election.
And Neubauer got
there were thousands
45,000 additional votes over Dallet, so it's not like she didn't turn out additional voters, but the Republicans turned out 165,000 more voters.
That's what you got to do.
For Hagedorn.
We always got to think about growing the electorate. And I don't know if that was the strategy in looking at the numbers on how they turned out. But what I would do if I was chair of the party, I would still, be able to tell when I go to my polling site right in the north side of the city of Milwaukee how well the organizing game is, right? And if it's at the end of the night and we have 140 votes in my ward, clearly there wasn't that previous engagement to get people aware that the election was that day and that it was important to vote for somebody that was going to carry their values. So if I'm chair, I want to focus on an organizing apparatus that is consistent, that doesn't take a break, that doesn't just push candidates. I think we also are making a mistake of just waiting to say another person's name. We got to talk about the issues that people really connect with, that they deal with outside of the election cycle, before there is a candidate Neubauer or a candidate Danielle Shelton. There is a way that we can get out into our districts, into our neighborhoods, and really continuously have these conversations. But I feel like, there was less of that strategy this time, and I would have loved to see more of it.
Should the Democrats own the candidate for Wisconsin Supreme Court? DPW have any responsibility in this race or in future races? David, I mean, let's stop pretending like these are nonpartisan races. And I don't think that Neubauer, heart of hearts, thinks of herself as a Democrat, but certainly the Republicans embraced Hagedorn. I mean, every ad talked about either Donald Trump or Scott Walker. He embraced a party, and the Democratic Party, seemingly, sir, was on the sidelines. At least whatever efforts they put forth, they weren't successful because she lost.
Yeah, I think so. I hear you. Legally, the Democratic Party and legally the Republican Party cannot use party resources in a nonpartisan race, especially for a judicial race. So there's no way around that. But there are a lot of folks in the Democratic Party that have the same values on the left side of the spectrum that would love to make sure that there is a justice that actually is going to carry their values to the bench. It's not seamless at this point for us to be able to, for other people in the party to understand, this is how I can be involved. This is how I need to be able to have these boundaries.
But
and
David,
I think having that clarity, I think that's important, because I would talk to folks and
but
they
the
would say,
Republicans
like, I don't know.
seemingly find a way to cross those lines or make it clear that Hagedorn is our candidate. I mean, I'm not sure if they give financial support. If you're telling me it's illegal,
if they
perhaps they do
people
not.
would be going to jail right now. But they can't.
What, roll out volunteers? I mean, I was listening to Dan O'Donnell this morning. I was listening to Righty Whitey Talk Radio. They had Hagedorn on there. I thought that was prudent in that he's out declaring victory this morning. But above and beyond that, they had the Waukesha Republican Party bragging about how well they organized the troops and the door knockers.
Yep.
And the Republican Party of Waukesha effectively had no qualms getting out there and getting out the vote for Hagedorn. Why not the Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin? Don't throw money at ads, but there has to be human resources, volunteers that can be put behind these races, because otherwise we frickin' lose.
I don't disagree, but I think at the same time, Republicans are not formally doing that on the record, where they are actually using
resources. Then let's do it informally, man. Do what we got to do.
They are not using resources from the GOP to engage in those
But they
activities.
can organize the
They can
volunteers,
organize
sure.
outside of that.
Sure.
And we did too. We didn't do it enough to be able to really, and I want people to really understand that the effort that was needed, that was not a 2018 operation, frankly. And I'm saying that as somebody from the outside looking in, because I'm not involved in a lot of these decisions at this level. Even as first vice chair of the party, that's definitely a higher level. And I'm sure that somebody at a higher level would know exactly what decisions were made. But, I even look at the targeting, because if the same folks are coming out and you aren't targeting folks that would not normally show up in a spring election, would not normally show up like we did in a 2018 considered a midterm. But, we got to fill that gap. We got to grow the electorate. There's no way around it. We cannot win if we don't do it.
David Bowen, just for a point of clarity, I asked you this off air. Did the National Party have a role in this election? We know that guys like Eric Holder came in. We know Planned Parenthood threw some money this way. But does Tom Perez take an interest in the outcome of a Supreme Court race in the state of Wisconsin? Or are these campaigns being run effectively, strategized right here in the state of Wisconsin? Where is it coming from? D.C. or Madison or Milwaukee or wherever they were seen in this case?
I would say these are Wisconsin operations. I would say that it does not the DNC has their hands full gearing up for 2020, especially when it comes to state races like this. I think this is much beyond what Tony, as chair of the DNC, wants to see. Right now, we're talking about folks that are running an operation right here in Wisconsin. And, like I said, we have the playbook. We got to follow it. And we also have to double down on going digital and using technology. I don't think we had the same tools at the helm of reaching out to people to the same degree that we did in 2018. And that's why I'm really proposing, if I'm chair, that we go completely away with clipboards and papers and some of the old traditional ways that we would get out there and use these tools. It's time to go full digital, and it's time to actually use some tech tools that we haven't really used to its fullest potential.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That's Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen. He is currently the first vice chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, running for chair of same said party. David, why wasn't this election the same as 2018? Why were there not the resources? Why was there not the organizing? Why did it happen the way it did?
I think that's definitely a good question. It depends on how the decisions were made to set up the operations and the things of that nature. Much beyond me. I don't have control to be able to do those things.
Sure.
But I look at folks on the grassroots level, and I was just in Baraboo maybe 4 weeks ago, right? Talking to some of the progressive Dems that were interested in this race. And they wanted access to literature, and they ironically at that point didn't get access to it. I think if you have a sound organizing operation, you have to have that connection with the grassroots. I think, we have to be stronger than we were right here. 2018, you're talking about unprecedented numbers. 1.7 million phone calls, 23,000 volunteer shifts, and over 250 neighborhood teams all over the state of people that would volunteer every weekend or some weekdays and say, I'm cutting time out of my schedule because I want to see this win happen. And when I was at the party's convention before 2018, in 2017, I told folks, like, look, we got to be tired election night. We don't have the luxury. Matter of fact, it was the 2018 convention before the race results in that fall. But I told folks, we got to be tired. We have to be sore, because if we don't really put in the work, that's not how wins are created. That's not how we're able to beat this Walker Republican machine that pumps out these votes. And you saw a lot of coordination that they had with Americans for Prosperity and those right-wing groups that pour tons of money.
Leadership committee or whatever on the Republican side.
They pour tons of money into these races and resources. And, they were adamant on continuously pushing on that end.
When it comes to the strategy of how to move forward and the messaging and all those things that are involved in a campaign, how much of those decisions are laid at the feet of the candidate? How involved are they as opposed to a party? And I get that this is technically a non-partisan race, this particular one, versus the party, versus consultants, versus the candidate's own instinct. To your understanding, you've run before, you're elected official. Do you make those decisions on your own on how you're going to approach your electorate?
It depends on how involved as a candidate you are into that strategy. Some folks that run for office are much more hands-on than others. You usually hire a very experienced, knowledgeable campaign team that will make those decisions sometimes. Me as a candidate running for office, I usually have staff that's so funny. Playing more songs from the Coming to America soundtrack. But I'm hands-on. That's how I operate. I'll have folks that also work in a number of positions that I know that have expertise, but like at the end of the day, I put the final say-so on how things go.
So it ultimately rests the decision ultimately is the candidates.
It could be.
It's your name on the ballot.
It could be
better be your call.
It could be their team, But I think, as you talk about, like, well, who do you target? How many offices do you have around the state? A a lot of those decisions are the team.
Hold that thought. State Rep David Bowen, he is a candidate for Democratic Party chair. We'll come right back. More Devil's Advocates and perhaps your phone calls at 844-967-2789.
I'm going to pray for you. And I want you to hold on to God's unchanging hand, because he helped Joshua fight the battle of Jericho. Yes. He helped Daniel get out the lion's den. He helped Gilligan get off the island. Lord.
And that's where the big bucks start rolling in.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org. P4ppc.org.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio. And if you miss any of this fine program, please go online, domandcrute.com. You can download interviews and podcasts.
Dominic, we've got a fine guest. He remains in the Brady Street studios, as do I for a change. State Rep David Bowen, he is the candidate, or one of the candidates, for chair of the Democratic Party of the great state of Wisconsin.
I'm just glad Mike is still here. He almost left.
Don't leave, Mike.
I've had to do some deep breathing and some meditation.
God, what is yoga going on?
My neighbor's dog was in my yard this morning.
Okay.
I gave that dog hell. And then I gave the owner hell. You don't want to be on my bad side today, and lots of people are.
Why are you peeing on my mailbox?
I don't mean to put you on the defensive.
Oh, good, man.
David,
good.
you know, here's my only thought. I want to come back to the topic of money just for a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
And in every other race that I can think of, you know, we had Neubauer yesterday. Again, we liked her very much. She talked about the Coke money, the dark money, flowing in at the end.
Yeah.
But her dark money flew in earlier, and she had lots of it. And it wasn't like Hagedorn got massive amounts of money and she didn't have any resources. The outside dollars maybe evened up. She was 14-1 in outside dollars up until a week ago. So money was not the issue. It wasn't that she didn't have the outside air support that Brian Hagedorn did.
Money for ads, not ground game. Money for ads. Yeah.
Fair enough. She had the if you give me a pile of money and I give Dom a pile of money and it's the same pile of money, I can't tell you how to spend it, but you can't say that you're not equally resourced. Let's stop pretending like this was a battle of a poor, unresourced liberal relative to the conservative, because that was not the case in this case. So if we take out money as an element.
Maybe. Okay.
If we take money out, and typically I wouldn't say that. Scott Walker is massively outspend his opponents in almost every race. But not in this race. That was not the case here. So if money was not the issue, I look and I say, you know what? Right-wing talk radio, they did their job again, especially here in the Milwaukee radio market. In the off-year elections, they pound their message over and over again.
And they very much targeted their base.
And it's a hammer, right? Mm-hmm. And they tell their friends, it's like a Pert Plus commercial. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the problem. We don't seem to get that on the left. We diminish the one little messaging platform at the left. Oh, they don't need to bring her around. We don't need to bring the Democratic Party and encourage people to vote. Well, that's a nonpartisan judicial election. But then I look at the outcomes, David, and I get mad as hell because I'm thinking this thing's been here the whole time. In right-wing talk radio, hell, they've been hosting Scott Walker. He was doing 3-hour infomercials for Hagedorn the last 2 days.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we get a 3:30 afternoon visit from the candidate. And we think, well, we did our parts. We're the left. And we're in the minority continuously because we think small ball, David. We don't think in big terms. They've got infrastructure. They pound the you-know-what out of it. And we're over here getting our asses kicked.
And they very much targeted their base to rile them up to come out and vote. And
I'll rile up our base. Just give me a chance.
and I want to thank you because there are parts of this state where Resistance Radio is the only left-leaning station outlet that folks can actually listen to outside of the traditional norms. So, the fact that you have that infrastructure and you've invested into it is important. So I want to thank you for that. At the same time, money can be seen as a factor if it's not going towards the ground game, the outreach that actually needs to touch folks, or the radio targets to be able to also not just use TV, but use the other mediums.
You want to know? I don't know for sure, but I got one bet.
Okay.
I bet all of Neubauer's consultants got paid.
Like attorneys, man. They never lose.
Win or lose, they always get paid.
That usually happens with every campaign.
Right.
It does.
That might be part of the problem sometimes. I'm just saying. Our pal, we've made him. I could have brought you here under better circumstances, but David, we appreciate you coming down.
That's why you hesitated when you said you really want to come on the show, and I was like, yeah, I want to come on.
State
Rep okay.
David Bowen, he is a candidate
you guys.
For Democratic Party chair. That's a very important
Our website
role.
will be live soon, so people will be able to see our plan.
And we will perhaps even bring you coverage from the DPW in June. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Hour 2 is next.
Do you want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page.
You too!
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
5/9, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Admission scandal court day. Biden responds to charges. I'm Mike Moss. Two famous actresses and more than a dozen others were in court in Boston today to face charges in the biggest ever college admission scandal. Correspondent Steve Kastenbaum reports.
Lauren, can you come to the microphone? Lori Loughlin, her husband, clothing designer Massimo Giannulli, and Felicity Huffman said nothing as they came and went from the U.S. District Courthouse before an army of reporters, news cameras, and dozens of Bostonians here to catch a glimpse of the actresses. The hearing was a legal formality, with Loughlin, Giannulli, and Huffman acknowledging that they understood the charges against them, the terms of their bail, which restricts international travel unless approved by pretrial services, and they waived their rights to a pretrial hearing. Steve Kastenbaum at federal court in Boston.
Joe Biden says he now understands why some women felt uncomfortable with his personal contact. The former vice president released a video response online.
I've never thought of politics as cold and antiseptic. I've always thought it about connecting with people. As I said, shaking hands, hands on the shoulder, a hug, encouragement. And now it's all about taking selfies together.
Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy says Republicans shouldn't wait until after the 2020 elections to unveil a health care plan to replace Obamacare.
I think waiting is probably good politics, but I'm in the minority on this, but I think it's bad policy.
Kennedy says Congress should right now either draft a new plan or fix Obamacare. Frustrated with long, drawn-out confirmations for presidential nominees, Senate Republicans employed the so-called nuclear option to shorten the process today. Republicans Mike Lee and Susan Collins voted against it. The House Judiciary Committee has voted to subpoena the full Mueller report if they don't get an unedited report from the Attorney General William Barr. On Wall Street, the Dow up 39, S&P up 6. I'm Mike Moss.
Hey everyone, this is Brian Simonson, and I am a huge cannabis activist in the state of Wisconsin. I am also the owner of the Hemp House located at 44 North Main Street in Deerfield. We are a CBD shop providing a safe alternative to dangerous, addicting, and potentially deadly pharmaceuticals. At the Hemp House, we concentrate on Wisconsin grown and made products. Come visit the Hemp House on Main Street in Deerfield and support our Wisconsin farmers and small businesses.
Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez, I got to ask you, in what percentage did the fact that Real Resistance Radio, WRD 1510, the fact that you can come after bar with us on Brady Street, Tom, how much did that factor into the site selection of Milwaukee, sir?
There's that old saying, what's good for General Motors is good for America. What's good for Resistance Radio is good for Wisconsin and good for America. So it was huge.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Binge watching is getting a little more expensive. Correspondent Jim Roop reports Netflix is raising prices again.
About a year and a half ago, Netflix hiked its subscription fees $1 or $2, depending upon your plan. And now it's raising its prices another $1 or $2, depending upon your plan. The basic plan jumps from $7.99 to $8.99 a month, the standard tier from $11.99 to $12.99, and the premium plan from $14.99 to $15.99. Sharing your account with friends and family outside your home may get tougher too, as new software to prevent that's reportedly in the works. The reason for the hikes? Netflix has been investing heavily in original content. Jim Roop, Los Angeles.
Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax is asking prosecutors in Boston and North Carolina to investigate sexual assault allegations 2 women have made against him. Fairfax says the allegations are untrue and the sexual encounters were consensual. He says he has a polygraph that proves his innocence.
I loved playing high school sports. I loved the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, all the pageantry, and I wanted to keep playing. But I graduated. No colleges called, and neither did the pros. So, to stay close to the game I loved, I decided to become a high school official. You know, a referee. When I played high school sports, I learned the importance of integrity, good sportsmanship, and respect for the rules. Now, as a high school official, I get to help model these same values to others. Maybe the colleges and the pros didn't call, but the kids in Wisconsin did. And now, I'm enjoying the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, and all the pageantry of high school sports all over again.
Interested in becoming a licensed high school official? Go to highschoolofficials.com to learn more and begin the application process.
For News Talk 1510 and 1580, my name is Keith Gostad. On Tuesday, a federal judge allowed Wisconsin to drop out of 2 lawsuits over the Affordable Care Act. Withdrawing from the lawsuit to overturn the ACA was a major part of the campaigns of both Governor Evers and Attorney General Josh Kaul. Brian Hagedorn has declared victory in the state Supreme Court race. Hagedorn will allow conservatives to maintain a majority on the court. The race against Lisa Neubauer remained too close to call well into the night and falls into the range of a possible recall, with both candidates receiving 50% of the vote. Meanwhile, in Madison, Satyrod's Conway beat incumbent Paul Soglin to become Madison's first openly LGBTQ mayor. And Danielle Shelton won a seat on the Milwaukee County Circuit Court, defeating Walker-appointed incumbent Judge Andrew Jones. Shelton ran a largely grassroots campaign and won 55% of the vote in Milwaukee County. For WRRD, I'm Keith Gostad.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It was Election Day yesterday in Wisconsin.
You want a hug, Crudy?
No, do not invade my personal space, Joe Biden.
You want me to sniff your hair, make you feel better?
If I had
little
hair,
nose rub, I'd probably get you from here.
You know, I did shampoo my hair today.
You
I
did?
don't do that every day.
Do you even have any hair?
A little bit.
On
I
the
got
sides?
a little bit going on.
All right. Tough day.
Just less on the top. At least I don't have plugs, Joe Biden. Nor you. I know that's all natural.
All natural.
Fabio. So, Dominic, I've told the people, in some small part, what I think. And there might be more of my opinions to be offered, but I'd like to give people a little bit more of what we know for sure about what the hell happened in the state of Wisconsin. If you're just joining us, a Wisconsin Supreme Court race last night. The big news went late into the evening. And Lisa Neubauer, the preferred candidate of the panelists here, went down in inglorious defeat. Now, there's still talk of a recount, but that's a fool's errand at this point. And for my activist friends, please don't waste your money on such an effort. There's no upside to it. I mean, it would be different if they investigated, if there was some sort of out-of-gamey county malfeasance going on late last night, Dom. Sure, let's get to the bottom of that. But a 5,000 to 6,000 vote margin differential, as Hagedorn said earlier today, that's insurmountable. And it is. You're not going to pick up that many votes. They didn't fall under the ballot box. So anyways, here's the part we think we know for sure, according to Craig Gilbert, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. It was one of the closest Supreme Court races in Wisconsin's history and generated one of the highest turnouts. And propelled by major swings in the northern half of Wisconsin, Brian Hagedorn clung to a narrow lead over Lisa Neubauer Wednesday, giving conservatives an upset victory if those results hold up. I expect they will. 1 year after, the Liberal court candidate Rebecca Dallett won her statewide Supreme Court race by 11.5 points, the conservative Hagedorn held a lead of about 0.5 percentage point. That represents a 12-point conservative swing in the statewide margin in 1 year. But the swing was larger in some places and smaller in others. Hagedorn had his biggest boost from northeastern and north central Wisconsin. In the 18-county Green Bay media market in northeast Wisconsin, the swing in the margin was roughly 20 points, according to incomplete returns. Now, Eric Gingrich, a Democrat, is the newly elected mayor of Green Bay. That's what our friend David Bowen was referencing. So you get a Democratic mayor, yet Neubauer loses the media market by 20 points. In the 11-county Wausau media market in north central Wisconsin, the swing in the court margin was 17 points from a conservative deficit of 3 points in 18 to an advantage of 14 points this time around. Those two regions, which happened to be areas where Republican Donald Trump performed well in 16, also saw some of the state's biggest turnout increases over April of 2018. A late pro-Hagedorn TV blitz invoked Trump in this race, and the biggest swing was in Manitowoc County along Lake Michigan, won by the Liberal court candidate by almost a point in 2018, but by the Conservative by 25 points on Tuesday. In another key county, Marathon in central Wisconsin, Hagedorn won by 19 points in more than 5,000 votes after the Conservative candidate Michael Skrinock lost by a percentage point in 2018.
Of the 20 counties with the biggest swings in a conservative direction over the 2018 court race, all but 2 were in those 2 northern TV markets. It took that kind of performance in northern Wisconsin and the Green Bay region for Hagedorn to overcome another huge liberal landslide in the area around Madison, the Democratic bastion of Dane County. Dane actually delivered a bigger raw vote margin for Neubauer, more than 88,000 votes, than it did for the winning Dallet in 2018, who got 82,500. To put that in perspective, that was almost the same vote margin Democrat John Kerry got from Dane County in his 2004 presidential race, when turnout statewide was almost 3 times higher than in this judicial race.
Madison did its. Dane County did its part.
Milwaukee County, the other key area for Democrats, gave Neubauer a vote margin of roughly 37,000 votes, a bit smaller than Dallet's margin last year of 41,201. Neubauer won 62% of the Milwaukee County and 79% in Dane. So 37,000 vote margin in Milwaukee County, down from Dallet's of 41,000, Curdy, but
about a 4,200 vote reduction.
And that's even, I think, exacerbated by the fact, another article here, turnout strong, nearly 27% as opposed to 22% in 2018. So turnout was up overall statewide.
Yeah.
But the margin of victory for Neubauer in Milwaukee was down. That makes it even worse. The key GOP suburban counties of Waukesha, Washington, and Ozaukee performed well for Hagedorn, turning out much higher rates than in the court race a year ago and producing bigger conservative margins. Hagedorn won 75% of the vote in Washington, 69% in Waukesha, and 63% in Ozaukee. In the Milwaukee TV market, the counties of Dodge, Kenosha, Sheboygan, and Walworth all had rightward swings in the point margin of at least 15 points over April of 2018. Big nonpartisan court races have become more and more politicized over the past decade or two, but it was still striking how closely the election map Tuesday resembled the one from last fall's partisan race for governor, another tight contest statewide. Of the 53 counties carried by former Governor Scott Walker last fall, Hagedorn won at least 49 based on the unofficial returns. And of the 19 counties carried by winning Democrat and current Governor Evers last fall, Neubauer won all but 1. Overall, almost 1.2 million votes were cast, according to preliminary returns gathered by the AP, for a turnout of more than 26% of the state's voting age population, compared to 22.3% in 2018. The only court contests with higher turnouts in recent decades were in 2016, when the court race coincided with the presidential primaries, and 2011 in the midst of the political wars over Walker's push to curb public employee unions. The 2011 race was also the closest race in recent times, won by Prosser by 7,000 votes, just under 0.5 percentage points. The race appears to be closer in raw votes, similarly close in percentage terms, and possibly headed for another recount. 844-967-2789. Thank you, Craig Gilbert, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, breaking down some of those numbers. Let's get to some phone callers. Chris from Sun Prairie, you are up. Thanks for calling. Chris, what do you got for us today?
Hey, Chris.
Hi. Well, I just want to say that I think that there were a lot of mistakes in this election. We didn't have signs that went out till 2 weeks before the election. Literature was not available. And the unions were really not in the loop on any of this. I know I called the campaign myself and asked for literature for my husband's union so people could take it when they were going out and doing doors. So I really think that there's a problem with what we're doing in elections. As you said earlier, we see people that have these jobs that they're, working on these campaigns election after election, and they lose. I mean, in business, when I was in business, if you don't do your job right, you don't get to do it anymore. I really think that we need to look at what we're doing. This isn't rocket science. We should have some definite drop-dead dates. You need to have signs this far ahead of the election. You need to have literature this far ahead of the election. These kind of things are not that difficult, and I really don't understand where the disconnect came in. I mean, I tried everything I could to promote Judge Neubauer. I've called your station several times. I know Earl had her on when we were at the Grassroots Festival, but I think a lot of it was too late. I think that everything happened at the end, and it should have been happening way earlier than when it did.
Well, here's the good news, Chris. Don't worry about it. This one's in the bag. Don't worry. We can't lose this race, Chris.
Yeah, that's a problem when people get real cocky like that, especially when they look at some of these people that seem like they really shouldn't be on the court and go, oh, God, nobody's ever going to vote for them. Well, guess what?
You never know.
That's what we have on the court right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the ones that we have to be really careful about. That should be sending up red flags. When people think it's in the bag, that should send up red flags for everybody. And I really think that I'm seeing a lot of people point fingers and say it was the Democratic Party's fault, it was this person's fault. It's really all of our fault. We all have to do better than this because, if what I see out there is we have the majority, we just don't have the control in the districts. And I also will always point to the election equipment because I have a real problem with computerized voting, as you know. I think computerized voting is fraudulent voting. I think that we need to do more in our elections to assure that they are correct. But I really don't think this is rocket science, and something is really wrong with this picture. And I think we really need to nail it down and find a winning strategy that we can repeat again and again. It doesn't seem like this should be so hard.
Well, Chris, let me ask you, who should suffer the consequences of a loss like this? And I know you are dialed in, Chris, progressive activist. We've known you for a very long time. Who you say we're all to blame. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
We don't all have as much control as, let's say, the campaigner or the consultants did.
Certainly. So who, in your mind, should suffer consequence, if any? What should it be?
The consultants who lost the campaign. I definitely think that they should suffer. I think that if you don't put on a winning campaign, perhaps you shouldn't be the consultants that do it the next time around.
Well, Chris,
as you said
now
earlier, it seems like people get paid over and over to lose.
Well, now they'll be more experienced. They'll get paid more.
Thank you for the call, Chris. Always appreciate your opinion.
Now, Dominic, before we move on down the phones, and we will get to more calls here, 844-967-2789. One of the consultants I called out on Facebook last night, and I called out his firm. The specific person I called out was Sation Chetta. I know I said his name wrong. I don't care, Sation. And he works for Nation Consulting. And Dominic, you offered an opportunity for either of those gentlemen to come on this fine program and just kind of tell us, what was your responsibility for the campaign? You were cashing checks. What'd you do? And we did, you more accurately got a reply. I apparently have offended the Nation Consulting team by naming them.
I'm unclear as to the process, right? If I were to run, I would rely on experts because I am not a professional politician. So I get like I mentioned with accountants or property managers, it's good to go to the experts who've been there. I mean, lawyers, Crudy, there's going to be lawyers. I mean, you have two lawyers, one for the plaintiff, one for the defendant. One is going to lose. You're always going to have a loser still get paid. But what is the process? What do you provide? What kind of services do you provide the campaign? So
I would point out lawyers have a very low professional reputation. And I've got friends that are fine attorneys, but all in all, that whole presumption of I get paid no matter what, that's not popular with everyone. Some would say you must be successful to get paid.
So Thad Nation did email me back right before going on the show today. I read this, and he said, Dom, I am confused. We have already seen Crony out on Facebook hitting Nation Consulting, so why bother asking the question now? I'll answer that question, Thad. I'm not Crony. Number 2, we are busy trying to make sure that the vote certification goes as well as possible and working on the setup for the recount. If you all want to spend time pointing fingers about a race that is not done, go ahead. We are still fighting to win, Thad Nation.
Ha! Fighting to win, you lost.
So, Thad, here's the deal. I don't know if you know how this works. I'm going to explain it to you. I'm Dom. That's Crute. We're the devil's advocates. Crute does what Crute does. Crute says what Crute says.
I name names.
He is his own man, as I am mine. Just because Crute says something doesn't mean I agree. If Crute has a thought or a conversation, doesn't mean I know about it. We are two co-equal partners in this awesome radio product, Thad Nation. So when I am asking a question, I didn't know Crute was what he was saying on Facebook yesterday, and I still don't have an answer as to what kind of services do you provide and that industry provides specifically to this campaign. It'd be nice to know. And do you take any fault? Do you take any blame for the end result?
No!
It's just a fair question.
It's Crudy's fault. Crudy blew it for us. Come back with us. More of your phone calls, 844-967-2789.
John's faded. I will call them from now on losers because that's what they are. They're losers.
And then I made a noise like this.
And yes, losers. They are losers.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Coleman and the Ad Council.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
We got Mark Pocan live via phone. Mark, does Paul Ryan hate poor people?
Oh, he hates poor people and middle-class people. I mean, I think when he was probably 5 years old playing with Play-Doh, trying to, adjust the taxes on Play-Doh. And so, to be fair, I think he's doing what he always said he was going to do. It's just no one actually believed he was either that cruel, evil, or dumb to do it.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are jammed. Be patient, please. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, just momentarily, I've got to correct the record. Yes, I was making some posts, actually a comment on our friend Greg Newman, former journalist.
Oh, yeah.
Channel 27, Capital City Sunday, been on his fine program.
Newman! We partied with him a little bit up in Cleveland.
And Newman pointed out between Rebecca Bradley and Hagedorn, who have both written extensively in Hagedorn's case about, hating the gay, Greg put out there basically, I'm embarrassed by the state of Wisconsin. And my response to Greg, in no small part, was, well, why should you be? Everyone knows the right hates the gay. That's no big shocker. But above and beyond that, the left blew this one. And the consultants, and I mean Nation Consulting, they blew this one. And the team, they weren't very strategic. They hit their candidate, although she's warm and capable and now a loser, unfortunately.
But yeah, this is why I reached out to Consult Nation, and there was another one as well. Went through the campaign finance, saw who were consulting,
who they were paying.
Yeah, who they're paying. Another one, G Strategies, did not get a response back from that organization, because I'm very curious to know.
Because they weren't up at 1 o'clock in the morning trolling Greg Newman's Facebook page, seeing what Crudy might be posting. Right. I thought they were busy recounting, gathering resources and all.
And so I'm curious to know what services provide and all those kinds of things. But above and beyond that, certainly the candidate herself. And I don't know how many miles. I mean, Brian brought it up. How many miles did Lisa Neubauer put on her car, during this election cycle? We know when Rebecca Dallek came around, she was hustling, man. She was on the road all the time and making herself very visible. So I don't have, apples and apples comparisons. But certainly when something like this goes down, when there is a loss to this degree, that something that should have been, I think, won, you have to look around. You have to look at the candidate. I think you'll have to look at the people that are around the candidate. And certainly...
You mean the campaign and the consultants?
Yes, absolutely.
If they're not responsible for the bad outcome, then who is? And I would say, sure, the candidate, Lisa Neubauer. Ultimately, she lost her name on the ballot.
Yes.
But she's a judicial candidate.
Right.
They don't run for election in the same way that governors or Congress people do. They need the guidance of these highly paid outside consultants, and one would hope they're getting good advice that helps them win, not lose elections. But as I said, Dom, the good news is the consultants got paid either way.
Let's get some callers in. Annie from Madison, you're up. Thanks for calling. Ann, what do you got for us today?
Hi. Your previous caller, Chris, did a very good job of summarizing how the campaign was bungled. And I would say if there were a single thing that should not have happened that could have made a difference, it would have been those ads that were on every few minutes, practically saying, like it was a pro-abortion ad. It had almost no bearing on the election. And the ads were just sort of in the background. They weren't good, and then because they played them all the time, and I'm not certain that this was the Planned Parenthood ad, but perhaps it was. And I understand it also played all the time in the Fox Valley area in the Green Bay market. But it was just terrible, and I think it brought out people to vote for Hagedorn that would have no more voted in this spring election than the man in the moon. Just horrible, horrible television ads. Whoever was responsible for them is truly guilty of campaign malpractice. The fact that the Republicans, when early on...
Annie, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to cut you short. We only got a few seconds left in this segment.
I bet they still got paid. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open. They're toll-free. Doesn't cost you nothing. 844-967-2789.
Want to see the super sexiest political show on earth? Check out the Devil's Advocates on YouTube.
Evil losers.
Five Nines, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man.
Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org. P4ppc.org.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Live via phone, he is former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel.
Firing Bob Mueller doesn't mean that the prosecution, the investigation goes away. Pardoning one individual does not mean that you undo everything that has been done before. So this notion that somehow by shutting down and by pardoning and by sort of stopping the process, you're also stopping the wheels of justice is simply, again, it's simply wrong.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
For News Talk 1510 AM and 1580 AM, my name is Keith Gostad. Milwaukee School Board results are in. Bob Peterson won the at-large election for the Milwaukee Board of School Directors. Marva Herndon is just ahead of Shyla Deacon in District 1 by 27 votes with 100% reporting. Retired MPS teacher Erica Simpson defeated incumbent Wendell Harris in District 2, and Saquana Taylor won in District 3, and Megan O'Halloran won in District 8. Highs today in the mid-50s with clouds moving in during the afternoon. Overnight lows in the mid-30s. Rain in the forecast for Thursday, highs around 40 degrees. Friday, highs in the low 50s with cloudy skies. For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Keith Gostad.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Lots of people packing the phone lines. We're going to get back to them. The headlines so far. Neubauer lost. Somebody is to blame. And I would say logic dictates if it wasn't a top-down, a DC-dictated campaign, and no one I've spoken to date has said, no, it was the DNC running her campaign. No one has told me that. Everyone's told me, no, it's a on-the-ground in Wisconsin campaign. And I've asked for the names. And I know the campaign manager is Tyler Hendricks. And I know the senior consultant came over from Tammy Baldwin is Scott Spector. And I know the consultant specifically was Sation Chetta. One of. There are more than one consultant.
That is correct.
He was the primary.
Yes.
So that was your job. Win the election. You were not successful at that job. I think there is some blame to cast. This was supposed to be a gimme. At least that's how you were acting, campaign team for Neubauer. Or you would have put her on the radio with some frequency. You'd have brought her around to more events here, certainly in Milwaukee, where we saw depressed turnout.
Well, and certainly it provided the signs and literature requested for by progressive activists that want to make an impact, that want to get this message out.
What do they know, Dom? That's why you hire the consultants, because they're the really smart people.
844-967-2789. Again, be patient. We will get to you. Like Mark from the SAC. You are up, Mark. What are your thoughts today?
Very patient, Mark.
I was deeply disappointed, and I'm deeply disappointed in the party, the guy that's running for party chair. They didn't pick up on the message that Crute and Dom, you guys ring out loud and clear. You guys are available as for the media market there, and they should have had Lisa Neubauer on your show the day after she won the primary. I mean, that's when you have to hit the ground running, because that's what the other side does.
I did ask, Mark, every week.
Yeah, and I know you asked.
Every week.
And they should pick up on that, because the one thing that the conservatives have picked up on is they bought up all these radio stations because they know how valuable they are in getting the message out. I mean, here you're running against the guy who was Scott Walker's John Doe 1,
right.
That legal team.
Right.
And that's the guy. And in John Doe 1, he was running the secret server out of his county executive office. And the day that garage collapsed, and I brought this up before, his campaign team was saying, get the info, keep the information from getting to the public, and that was that resulted in a dead child. I mean, you tie that kind of stuff to these guys, and as far as like in the debates when they talked about Hagedorn said, well, how horrible a decision that Roe versus Wade was. Well, they should have asked him, how about Taney and the Dred Scott decision? I mean, you have to pinch these guys back and hit them hard between the eyes.
Well, loving Virginia, Mark.
Yes.
What about? Okay, but now where we're at, right? Today's we're what is it? Wednesday morning.
The postmortem.
Wednesday morning quarterbacking. Mark, who should bear the consequence?
Oh, the consultants here. I mean, the consultants blew it once again. I mean, the thing of it is you need to contact Goy, and she was personable. I saw her on your program there. She seems like a very personable person.
She was awesome.
She laughed at my jokes, Mark.
she and as far as and she looks like she's a little taller than Judge Dallett is, so she had better legs to be running around the state than what Judge Dallett was, because get her to every single corner of the state and make them see that she's a human being and that she's a far better human being than Hagedorn. I mean, Hagedorn ran on the anti-gay. I mean, that's what motivates these guys, and it's something you thought would have gone by the wayside already, but it works with that team. And I mean, now he got to play himself as the victim of this horrible thing. Well, he's the one that put himself in that position by holding those positions and funding the groups and helps promoting the groups he does.
Hey, Mark, real quick. You were at the Wisconsin Grassroots Network Mesa Mania not so long ago. I've seen you out there a few years in a row. And I gave the opening speech that day, and, I felt like I gave a fairly good speech. I was happy. It's neat when, people actually laugh in the crowd and clap and, adore on you. And I looked out and I did a head count after I was done speaking. I thought, about 150 in the room. And that seems like a big crowd to me. When there's 150 set of eyes and ears staring at you, it seems like a big crowd. If there were only 150 people listening to me at this moment right now, Mark, I'd be crying in my beer. Every time we turn on, there's more than 150 just on the stream. That doesn't even count the number of people listening on the radio, and we're a radio product. Yesterday, we had over 20,000 engagements on Facebook. I guess here's the point I would make. It's great to go down to every town hall and fair and whatever the case may be. But this is called mass media for a reason. Even if we're not as powerful as TMJ or ISN in terms of cume and book and statistical analysis I can show to the campaigns, Mark, there's thousands of people listening to the sound of my voice right this second. And they've got friends, and they tell their friends. If we keep telling them what they should, can't tell people what to think, but you tell people what we think, and then they repeat it to their friends because they're smart.
And they were on, and she was on Earl's program, but she should have been on your other morning lineups there.
Never on Sherwin's show.
The word out. Yeah, she should have been on Sherwin's show.
That was
from the start.
That was a decision. I don't know why they feared that candidate, Mark. She's such, and I'm sorry to keep cutting you short, buddy. Thank you for your call and your patience, but I don't know why. She came off as quite warm. I mean, I like Rebecca Dallett, but no more than I like Lisa Neubauer.
And if Lisa came around as often as Rebecca, we'd had a little more rapport with her. I mean, it was, listen, I don't know. And again, I don't know how much of that is of the candidate's own will and volition if she decided that this is what she wanted to do and how she wanted to roll herself out to the public. You know, I don't know where that goes.
But when she came around, she was warm and friendly and capable. There was no reason to hide her from the public. They should have taken her at least to as many different media outlets as they could. And David Bowen said, you know, in some communities, you're the only left-wing talk radio outlet. Yeah, no kidding, David. In every community in the state of Wisconsin that can hear my voice right now, we're the only freaking left-wing talk radio outfit in the state of Wisconsin. So if I take this personally, it's because we're kind of out here on an island.
844-967-2789. Dave from Mequon, you are up. Thanks for calling, Dave. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dave.
Hey guys. You know what? At least the Brewers got the sweep today, so we can look at.
I know, 6-1 on the new season. That just helps my righty-whitey competitor. His ratings are up because the Brewers are playing well.
But really quickly, Crudy, I'm going to agree with you on a few points here today.
Wow, that's a rarity, Dave. Lay them on me, brother.
Yeah. So one is the turnout for Milwaukee. My dad would always tell you, he's lived in Milwaukee now for almost 50 years, and the turnout is just non-evident. Milwaukee, which has got the county of Milwaukee, which has twice the population of Dane County. Dane County actually had, by raw numbers, I think 1,500 more votes when you combine Hagedorn and Neubauer than Milwaukee County did. And keep in mind, in Milwaukee County, you know, people forget, you know, even though it's like around 60 to 40 roughly, it's still the largest turnout of GOP is in Milwaukee County. And the thing that I see, and to your point, you know, is that people were asleep at the wheel. Because if you were driving around, there wasn't signage, to your point in regards to that. There was a lack of, I think, resources in that case. But the other thing I'm just going to say to you guys is a word of warning. So remember I was telling you guys, you know, like I go up to Sheboygan and Manitowoc and Fox Valley frequently for work and stuff.
We all got schmingy friends, Dave. Continue.
What's that?
Schmingies. People from that part of the state, they're schmingies.
Okay. So, you know, at the end of the day, though, you essentially had two counties, Dane and Milwaukee, that provided 38% of the total votes for Neubauer. That's not good. I mean, if you're going to have essentially two counties account for almost 40% of all the votes, and you got 70 plus counties in the state. There's a total disconnect, and I'm going to disagree with David Bowen on this. That we'll do this. David he's a nice guy. I've heard him on radio for a long time, but there has been a disconnect with Milwaukee for quite a while, along with some of the outlying areas from Milwaukee.
If you mean the WOW counties, David, sure. They're highly Republican. I would maybe quibble. I think Waukesha had the highest turnout, but I'd have to go back and check the stats, my friend. I'm not trying to, call you out. I may be inaccurate in that assessment. But the Milwaukee media market broadly, it's not just Milwaukee County, it's Waukesha, and it's Ozaukee and Washington and Walworth and the surrounding contiguous counties.
It's like the number 40 market in the country at 1.5 million people, 12 plus.
Number 41 media market, I believe. If you win the Milwaukee media market, you win the state of Wisconsin. And that's just seemingly the facts. Now, Dane County's done its part, and it can provide raw numbers to help offset, some places upstate, Marathon County, good turnout in Green Bay. But if you cannot win the Milwaukee media market, Democrats will continuously lose
all right, but to that point,
elections.
though, we know, Neubauer won Milwaukee.
Not the media market, just the county.
Okay, just the county. So
now factor in all the Waukeshas, Ozaki, Washington. When we see the raw numbers and I look at the media market, I'm not sure that she did win Milwaukee. Not the media market.
844-967-2789. Let's keep going on the phones. Curtis from Dallas, you are next. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us?
Rudy, we have a good way to get, you know what, you should be pissed off. They never spend a lot of money in the grassroots. Whoever did the advertising for them should be fired because 2 reasons. I tried my hardest to get a sign for my front yard and 5 of my family members. 2 people down the street didn't even know it was voting time in West Dallas.
Yeah.
And another thing is, the people whoever did his inking is smart, because they put a blue background on that man's sign. And a blue background meant that he was kind of like Democratic. And another thing is, being a gay male like myself, I can tell you right now, it's all about the wording. Those commercials sucked on Channel 12 and all the other stations I listened to. It was horrible. Oh, blah, blah, about the gays. All they did is kept on feeling the fire of the homophobic people in Wisconsin. Because let me tell you, we live in a homophobic state. And I'll tell you one thing. I was born and raised on the south side of this Milwaukee here. And I'm telling you right now, they always say the Republicans and all these so-called Christian people. And I know a lot of gay priests in my time, let me tell you. And clergy. And also, all of a sudden in the Elmbrook too, gay people up there. They just hide in the hood. But anyway, my whole thing is when I want to go on, and I don't mean to rant, but I'm kind of pissed. They kept on playing that stupid commercial about the gays. The thing behind it, it's all about the wording. All you have to say is gay, and they freak out. The bottom line is that was like fuel on the fire. They should never kept on saying the gay thing. Because let me tell you, the religious people like Dave and the Gary that called earlier, oh, blah, blah, blah about the gays. No. It's not. They don't hate gays. They hate the sin. Don't hate the sinner. It's a thing all about the Christians.
But even that's biblical. I mean, it still takes us into biblical, evangelical, Christian framing.
Welcome to canon law in the state of Wisconsin.
I mean, you can forgive damn near anything when you say forgive, hate the sinner or hate the sin, love the sinner, right? I mean, even Donald Trump can be forgiven under that standard. That gives you carte blanche. You're always wiped away. You're absolved of your sin. Somebody got crucified. I mean, we got Easter coming up in the short run, Don. Perhaps we should have a little early crucifixion. I'm ready to pound some nails. I'm just saying.
Who are you going to pound nails on, Crudy?
I'm just saying.
844-967-2789. We'll keep going on this topic. Lots of callers lining up. You could be next. We are the Devil's Advocates. This is News Talk 1510 AM WRRD 1580 AM WTTN. Come back with us.
Shame. Know your name.
Devil's Triangle.
And Republicans done something remarkable.
They're winners. Winners get to do what they want.
So you get nothing. You lose.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio. Call in live at 844-967-2789 and give your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on local and national topics. Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon. It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes on Real Resistance Radio. Always streaming live on realresistanceradio.com.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Taking phone calls right now, 844-967-2789.
Well, we're taking phone calls momentarily. I got a email from Scott Spector over at the Judge Lisa Neubauer for Justice campaign. It says, "Hi, friend. As you've probably heard, after massive spending by outside dark money groups, especially in the last 10 days of the race, the contest for Wisconsin Supreme Court is likely headed to a recount. We ran a spirited campaign true to our fantastic candidate. Judge Lisa Neubauer is a fair, independent, and impartial, and she was running against an avowed homophobe who founded a private school that embedded discrimination into their mission and who gave multiple paid speeches to a hate group." Well, as Curtis just brought up, that was not a message that resonated with many. I realize at this point they're just seeking money for the recount.
Maybe it's meant more for the... I don't know, man. It motivated, certainly seemed to motivate...
It didn't work last week. Why is it going to work
the conservatives
today? I'll bring it to conclusion. We'll get to the phones. We're disappointed that this race is too close to call, but we're not defeated. Yes, you are. This campaign isn't over, and we need your support to ensure that every vote gets counted. Please chip in $20. Dark money, right-wing forces want to win this race so they can keep rigging legislative district maps in Wisconsin so they can continue to strip powers from the Democratic governor and give them to Republican leaders in the legislature. Their plan is clear, and it stopped us from winning outright last night, but together we can fight back. And here's the ask. Once again, please help Judge Neubauer fight off these dark forces with a contribution of $20 right now to ensure that every vote gets counted. Thank you, Scott, senior advisor to the Judge Neubauer for Justice campaign. Well, here's my issue. You already lost the race. Why would we give you more money? I mean, I get
fund to recount?
Fund to recount.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, end of the quarter, I've made the mistake before of giving money to some of these candidates, generally directly. If I'd have known all that money was just going to pay some consultant, I'd have been more hesitant to give. But I can tell you, I'm on every dim list now, right? And every single one of them, from Tammy Baldwin on down on March 31st, wasn't telling me to go vote for Judge Neubauer. Was telling me, got to get that last-minute donation in. Got a triple-double funder matching. Give now. And I'm thinking, you don't even have an election, Tammy, for 5.5 years. Why are you raising money now? I mean, I got so many of them. I delete them immediately.
Did you get emails telling you to go vote for Neubauer?
I'm sure the DPW jammed one in there somewhere. I didn't read those
but
either.
But not to the extent that you got emails.
Well, I can tell you, last weekend, the ask was on.
All money.
All money, all the time.
No. 844-967-2789. Jack from the 8th District in Milwaukee. You are up. Thanks for calling, Jack. What do you got for us?
Okay, fellas, don't be too hard on yourselves. You guys did the best you could, you know. You got to realize if you don't have voter turnout, I'm from the 8th District, you know, and I'd like to relate an experience that I had yesterday.
All right.
And I knew right away, I says, oh, God, I don't think this is going to look good. Anyhow, I vote at the Boys and Girls Club on 24th and Rogers, and I think I got there to the poll about 6:30. And, oh, my gosh, the poll workers were so happy to see me. And, because they were sleeping. And so, in other words, what I'm trying to say is, make a long story short, you don't have that turnout. You're not, especially here in Milwaukee, if you don't get that turnout. In my district, I don't know what it is. Of course, there wasn't much, like usually they have like little signs telling you voting today. There wasn't much around my area here, but my district is kind of notorious for not turning out on these judicial races. You know,
because no one makes it a big deal. I don't think it's just your neighborhood. I live in a pretty upscale area in Middleton. I'm 5 blocks from a lake. I didn't see any signs. I didn't hear any encouragement to go vote. I mean, I saw the flurry of editorial endorsements in the last 2 days in the newspaper. But are we relying upon that? Are we, the left, counting on op-ed pages to push our candidates to victory?
I drove back and forth to Madison 3 times last week and once this week. I saw 100 signs for Hagedorn. I saw none for Neubauer between Milwaukee and Madison.
Oh, I only saw like 9 for Hagedorn. I must just get tunnel vision on the highway.
I got blurry vision.
Start blocking it out after a while. Thanks for the call, Jack. Certainly appreciate it. William from Wanakee, you are next. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us today?
Hey, William.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Just wanted to say I think this is a wonderful day for Wisconsin. The Conservatives keep a 5-2 majority on the Supreme Court, and I think that's a great thing for Wisconsin.
That's actually a pickup. It was 4-3. Now it's 5-2. Congratulations. You're apparently a conservative, sir. Your side turned out, and you guys won.
Yeah, it just seemed like Democrats, for whatever reason, didn't come out yesterday, and I really don't understand it, because you look at what happened in the Dallas election. She did great. Voter turnout was great.
What motivated you, if I may ask, though? I mean, we know what the outcome was, but why were you motivated to go, I assumably, vote for Hagedorn? Why did you care more about this race than, let's say, the Dallas-Skronik race a year ago?
Well, I personally was motivated. I'm more of a libertarian than certainly not a Republican. But
yeah, we like weed too, sir. Please continue.
Exactly. So, yeah, I guess taxes and Act 10 and right to work, things of that nature, I support, and I know you don't, and I respect that. But
William, let me ask you, given your libertarian leanings, then how do you reconcile, the anti-gay stance of Hagedorn, not just philosophically, but literally in practice, in employment, would fire people and kick people out of school if they were gay? How do you
libertarians typically stay out of the bedroom, don't they, sir?
Yes, I agree 100%. That's none of my business. I need to stay in my own lane, and I don't agree with that in any way.
But you still voted for the guy who would do that. That wasn't enough for you not to vote for him?
That wasn't a deal killer, right?
Well, I don't agree with people 100%, and that's something. And I don't know. I think he's been vilified a bit more than I think he actually practices it, but yeah, as far as that goes, no, I wouldn't support that in any way.
But you just did, William. Thanks for the call, man.
Here's the good news. Brian Hagedorn will have the rest of his natural life on the Wisconsin Supreme Court to redeem himself.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll get right to that.
Are you kidding me? This proves his point. Why would he do anything any different? He won.
Folks, we are the devil's advocates. All we ever do is win, 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 no matter what.
Question mark?
Come back with us. The happy hour is next.
Want to be more presidential? Tweet the Devil's Advocates at Devil Radio.
Who cares?
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean. Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern. You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
College scam, personal space. I'm Barbara Cusack. The two actresses caught up in a college admissions bribery case, Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, appeared in federal court in Boston today. Correspondent Steve Kastenbaum was there.
The hearing was a legal formality, with Huffman, Loughlin, and her husband Massimo Giannulli acknowledging that they understood the charges against them and the potential for prison terms. They waived their rights to preliminary hearings. The judge also went over the terms of their bail again, which bans international travel unless approved by pretrial services. The judge said they'll be expected in court for all future proceedings.
California entrepreneur Peter Sartario became the first of the 33 parents charged in the college admission scam to agree to plead guilty. The House Judiciary Committee has cranked up the pressure on the Attorney General to release the full report from Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe.
In a straight party line vote, the committee approved the subpoena for the full report and evidentiary material. Chairman Gerald Nadler says the committee has a right to see everything.
It is our job, not the Attorney General's, to determine whether or not President Trump has abused his office.
The vote simply authorizes the subpoena. It will be up to the chairman to decide when and if he will use it. Linda Kenyon, Capitol Hill.
Former Vice President Joe Biden tweeted a video response following accusations he inappropriately touched women over the years.
Social norms have begun to change, they've shifted, and the boundaries of protecting personal space have been reset. And I get it. I get it.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham came to Biden's defense.
I don't believe for a second that he meant to do anything wrong, and I can understand why people took it differently than he meant, and that's maybe a lesson for all of us.
Stocks closed higher. The Dow added 39 points for the day. The S&P 500 was up by 6 points, and the Nasdaq posted a 47-point gain. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Five9, your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy five9s.com.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Eric Holder, he's the former U.S. Attorney General and current chair of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee.
The notion that Scott Walker is saying that we are doing something to push partisan gerrymandering, that is the pot calling the kettle total black. I mean, that's absurd. He is one of the architects of among the most gerrymandered states in the union. All we're pushing for is a fair process come 2021.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Bible.
Boeing announced more delays in their new space capsule for astronauts.
NASA announced that the first test flight for Boeing's new capsule that was supposed to debut this month after a series of postponements is now set for August, and a second test flight with astronauts on board won't happen until the end of the year. SpaceX, NASA's other commercial crew provider, successfully flew its new Dragon capsule without a crew to the ISS last month. Manned flights could happen as early as this summer. Both Boeing's Starliner and SpaceX's Dragon capsules are designed to allow the U.S. to stop relying on Russian Soyuz capsules and the ISS as much. I'm John Stolness.
Los Angeles city leaders honored the lifetime achievements of famed primatologist Jane Goodall by singing happy birthday to her on her 85th birthday. Goodall vocalized a chimpanzee greeting today at the City Hall ceremony and pulled Mayor Eric Garcetti over to demonstrate how a female chimpanzee greets a high-ranking male. I'm Barbara Cusack.
1 in 3 adults in America have prediabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Years 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mama. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse prediabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Bet he can't say that in reverse.
For News Talk 1510 AM and 1580 AM, my name is Keith Gostad. Judge Brian Hagedorn has declared victory in the state Supreme Court race. Hagedorn's election will allow conservatives to maintain a majority on the court. The race against Lisa Neubauer remained too close to call well into the night and falls into the range of a possible recall, with both candidates receiving 50% of the vote. Meanwhile, in Madison, Satya Rhodes Conway beat incumbent Paul Soglin to become Madison's first openly LGBTQ mayor. Danielle Shelton won a seat on the Milwaukee County Circuit Court, defeating Walker-appointed incumbent judge Andrew Jones. Shelton ran a largely grassroots campaign and won 55% of the vote in Milwaukee County. The Brewers beat the Reds 4-3 in Cincinnati yesterday. They take on the Reds again today. And the Bucks are off today. They face the 76ers in Philly tomorrow night. My name is Keith Gostad.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock WTF
happy hour.
I'm not happy hour. Can't believe Judge Lisa Neubauer lost. And, you know, I know there's perhaps a recount forthcoming. I don't give a damn. It's done. Stick a fork in the campaign. It is done. Except, don't forget, all the Dem consultants, give them participation ribbons. Thanks for playing. Good effort. You know, 10 years from now, you'll get another shot. Or maybe 20 or 30. Just saying.
844-967-2789. The audience, very concerned today as well. And Curdy, like you, I'm pretty sure everybody I've asked the question to regarding, you know, who should pay the consequence for this loss have pointed to
me?
The consultants.
Oh,
no,
okay.
The audience members have. I mean, this is not just a thought that
don't ask
you're
the
having.
Consultants because they're going to point at yours truly.
I mean, but listen,
I got back-channeled today. Do not name names. And I'm thinking, your campaign just lost. I'll name your name if I want to.
Well, and compare this to what happens on the right. Again, 81 right-wing radio stations, 235
hours per day.
Per day. And what that does, what does that do? Well, it does a lot of things. Number one, it gets a message out, and in many markets like my former home up in the Fox Valley or up in Wausau or out in La Crosse, there's nobody pushing back. If you're dialed in, if you are a political-minded person, regardless of your partisanship, you're going to tune into who's talking politics. And if the only station in your market that's talking politics is the right-wing station, what are you going to do? You're going to probably listen to that. You have really no other options.
Little Rush, little Bellin.
Yeah, in and out, maybe a little ball game. So that's the environment in which we now find ourselves. So that infrastructure allows for messaging on a mass scale all over the state, number one. Number two, it allows for the conservative movement to put their troops in line. when you have 235 hours a day to rail on even your guy or your gal on your team.
Guys like Luke Hilgeman, you know, the guy that consulted for Skronik's campaign and went on vacation the week before the election last year.
Right.
He heard about that on right-wing talk radio. I think he's left the country in disgrace.
Right. And what does that do? Well,
or he's cashing more checks as a consultant, one or the other.
But the point is there is immediate pushback. There is immediate response when you have 80-some stations and 235 hours a day. Now, the new paradigm created the new dynamic. WRD, WTTN, the Devil's Advocates, many other shows in Milwaukee.
Talk 92.7 FM coming soon.
In Madison. Well, all of a sudden, the left wing has to start dealing with, I don't know, call it immediate feedback. Well, what just happened? You know, on the right, on 235 hours of right-wing radio today, they are ecstatic. They're happy. Their person won. Okay, that's going to happen. But now this whole new dynamic here in Milwaukee and Madison, well, all of a sudden, some progressives, and you heard the audience, not just the hosts of this show, concerned about the efforts that were put forth. And maybe you don't like it. I can get it. I mean, people, it's tough to take criticism. It's tough to take constructive criticism. Or
never look in the mirror. Ever.
But that's just the way it is. That's the way it is now. And I think that's a dynamic that people are going to have to really, really get used to.
Suck those lemons, in other words.
844-967-2789. We get used to our fine audience. Let's start them out. I think we're on Wisco Paul. Hey, Paul, welcome to the Devil's Advocates. What do you got today?
As always, thanks for taking my call. That's a hard loss to take yesterday. Hagedorn or whatever his name. I just don't forget him, but he was anti-union. He's the one that helped Walker wipe out the unions. Mark said it well, though. I'm just a common man, but how do you win a state election? 2018 comes to mind. You have to have the Milwaukee vote and talk radio. I mean, you got to use talk radio. Gee, I don't know. Yeah, I talk and talk.
When you can buy Facebook
nobody listens.
Live stream ads and invade my wife's Pandora stream with Lisa Neubauer ads. That's all you need, Mark. Paul, my bad. You referenced Mark. Okay. That's why I made the mistake.
Paul, so what's your take, man? I mean, we are where we're at right now. Where do you find fault? Who, in your mind, should suffer any sort of consequence to what was presumably, to my opinion, a favorite going into last night with Lisa Neubauer coming out today as a loss?
Well, the ads were a joke, like a caller before myself said. The ads were just a complete joke, and I think that did more harm than good. You energized the right with those ads.
He's just the right kind of gay-hating cracker that we love to vote for.
Well, that's, I guess, what the heck? That sums it up pretty good.
All right.
But it's mostly the people that ran the ads, I blame them, and also not using your radio station and turning out the vote in Milwaukee. You have to turn out the vote in Milwaukee. Otherwise, I feel this is a red state. So thanks for your comments also, Mark. And it's a good show today, even if I am depressed. Thanks.
Hey, all right, Paul. Thank you. We do appreciate it.
Well, as long as it's good radio, we're all winners, Tom.
Oh, come on. I wouldn't mind a little bad radio if Neubauer would have won. 844-967-2789. You can call or you can text.
I will not suffer through bad radio here. Nothing but the highest quality of radio.
Here is a text we received from someone who wishes to remain anonymous.
Call him Bob. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I am on the volunteer list for the Democratic Party, and I didn't get a call until Thursday of last week. Interesting. 844-967-2789. I don't know how that compares to
the Democratic Party
previous.
Called John Doe Texter. That's more than I can say.
Let's keep going. Joe from Stevens Point, you are up. Thanks for calling the Devil's Advocates. Joe, what do you got for us?
It's a sad day, fellas, but you know what? You just know we can. You just know there's really something wrong in the wheelhouse. when you blow the call, the most basic call is grassroots. This radio station is grassroots. This is not hard math to do. And signs, when you don't see signs, that is grassroots. And I think there's a disconnect when you have a real consultant-driven party. And I think that's what is also making this message. We're hamstringing ourselves. And, you know, at the end of the day, the Democratic Party should be taking some of the heat for Lisa Neubauer and just saying we are the party.
Yeah,
that
but
are going to stand up for women and families and medical and marijuana legalization and the medical benefits of it. And, you know, we don't. And we could focus on the minutia. But at the end of the day, you know, we really, you know, we're coming out of one of the worst losing streaks as Democrats. We had the worst losing streak in 100 years. So this is hangover from that. And these are like basic fundamental politics things that aren't happening on the grass level because we're just consultant driven. It's central planning. You guys aren't part of that formula. I'm not part of that formula. We aren't, and we're suffering.
Joe, if you're not on the inside, you're on the outside. Thanks for the call, man.
We are the ultimate outsider radio product. Right here in the great state of Wisconsin.
844-967-2789. Dawn from Wisconsin. We're going to move you to the top of the list because apparently Dawn has inside info. Dawn, welcome to the Devil's Advocates. What do you got for us?
You naming names, Dawn?
Thank you very much. Hey, I do have an inside scoop. I work in a community and I take care of absentee voting, and I can tell you this community is very red. And I can tell you that the Republican Party must have done a ding-dang good job because the people coming in requesting in-office voting were all coming from a certain part of the city. One day, a certain part of the city would come in. Next day, another part of that city would come in. It's amazing. I'm like, these guys have got to be calling people at home and telling them, get down the vote or your candidate's not going to get in. Because people, you would get one person on one city street, and all of a sudden, the next person showing up to vote was a neighbor just down the street, same city street. And it's like you would be the same streets over and over and over one day. It was amazing. We weren't issuing ballots from a certain area of town. It was always for this one area. Then the next thing it switched. I swear to goodness, they've got to be mass calling areas of the communities and telling them, you got to get out to vote or Hagedorn ain't going to win. And I'm like, dang. And then we started getting postcards also for absentee ballots. It's like they hit it so incredibly hard. It's not even funny. It's like, the Democratic Party wasn't doing any of that. I didn't get any phone calls at home, but boy, that boy at work. The people coming in droves trying to get their candidates elected, and obviously it worked. It's crazy, and I think we had to take on some of them tactics as the Democratic Party. The other thing is, you know what got me kind of mad is we know where Hagedorn was appointed by Walker. Did we hear that much of that being promoted? We needed to promote the fact he really hadn't been a judge for very long. It was all because of Walker, and yet that point wasn't being hammered home. You know, I'm like, I know it was kind of more of a clean race in that respect, but sometimes you got to go low, you know?
Oh, I'm more than willing to go low, Dawn. Appreciate your call. Don't mean to be short, but we got lots of people stacked up. We want to keep moving it along. 844-967-2789. Who's next, Tom?
Steve from Cudahy, you are next. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Steve.
Okay. Hey, you guys. I'm a frequent caller. Love you guys, all that. Well, here it is. Why did, all you guys all complain, or not complain, but I know bad and emotional, we're all bummed out, where the consultants, there's such a disconnect with the consultants from the smaller level of state consultant to the presidential election of consultant. Let me ask you guys something. How come, if we all know that it's stacked against us in terms of how many radio stations are out there and they're giving them free lip service to this hacked Brian the Judge, then point the finger at each other a little bit by saying, why didn't Sherwin and the morning show and everybody else just have her on 7 million hours a day?
Because
to combat all the other. Go ahead.
Here's the problem. She was invited. They didn't take up the invitation. After a certain number of invitations, we stopped asking. I called that campaign. I mean, literally, I told him I was pissed. I said, why am I begging you? And if you want to get under my skin, you've accomplished your mission. They called around me, wouldn't take any of my phone calls, asked me for Earl's phone number. Hey, can we book Judge Neubauer on Earl? I said, yes. He books his own show. Here's his phone number. But what about my show? I've been asking for 6 weeks.
Right.
Sherwin Hughes was grumbling on the air. I mean, ultimately, we're only human beings. If you don't treat us like allies, if you don't bring the candidate around, what do you know? We talk a little bit less about the race. A little less to talk about. When you got the judge coming on tomorrow or the day after that, would have been nice. Every week. Hey, we got Judge Neubauer coming on Friday. Tune in on Friday.
Right, Fridays with Judge Neubauer.
I mean, Steve, don't even point that finger at me.
It's a good
question. It's not for a lack of asking,
yes,
sir.
Great question, Steve. We're glad you asked it. Thank you for listening. We've called. We call a lot. Sometimes they just don't call you back, man.
Hell, I invited Judge Neubauer on today to discuss the recount if she wanted to. They opted not to. Kind of offended a few, apparently.
Come on.
I blame Dom. More Devils, more of your calls, 844-967-2789.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it. It's called the American Dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
The American dream is dead.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Everybody knows somebody who's going to forget.
That's my husband.
Chris, my best friend.
Mi hermano, Humberto.
But now, Wisconsin requires voters to show a photo ID at the polls before casting their ballot in the upcoming elections. So remind someone you know to remember their
military ID,
Wisconsin driver license,
or free Wisconsin state ID.
There are several different IDs you can use. Visit bringit.wisconsin.gov or call 1-866-VOTE-WIS for the complete list. And don't forget to bring it.
Tráelo.
Bring it to the ballot.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin Elections Commission.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community, because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill, bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Doug from Cudahy.
Right around the time of the uprising, I found you. I started listening, and 2 years later, after I signed the recall and voted, we went out to sing along with the singers on my birthday. And they were so cool, and it's one of the greatest memories that I had. And ever since I started listening to the Devil's Advocates, I have been woke. I haven't missed one vote since. You guys have really done wonders for our community, and I'm just so happy you're on the air.
Making radio great again. You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Tom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines jam-packed, but be patient. We'll get to you at 844-967-2789. A lot of people want to share their thoughts, their feelings about the Lisa Neubauer loss, Wisconsin Supreme Court election last night. Let's keep going. On the phones, up next, I believe we have Kurt from Madison. Kurt, thank you for calling. What do you got for us?
Well, first I have to say that you guys took the wrong week off.
I blame Brady.
Second of all, Curdy,
yes,
everything you said, very, very cogent, and I have very little grounds to disagree, but I'm going to have to quote my 88-year-old mother, who has gone through lots of elections, and I think she sums it up best. Democrats are just stupid. We are totally incapable of learning from our mistakes. And I think she's right.
I think you're smart for quoting her. She's absolutely right. I looked at the postmortem in 2016. You know, the last time the Democratic Party in the state of Wisconsin failed the electorate. Although I would say even 2018, not a complete success. Sure, Tony Evers skinned it out by the skin of his teeth. Tammy Baldwin won. Josh Call, down the ticket, Godlewski and LaFollette. But what about the legislative races? I mean, we're still massively getting crushed in both the Senate and the Assembly. And you can say, oh, gerrymandering.
Well, gerrymandering.
You can't win a single freaking race. Robin fighting, my bad.
844-967-2789.
I wonder who consulted for most of those candidates coming out of Milwaukee.
Let's keep going on the phones. Tom from Cedarburg, you are next. Thanks for calling, Tom. What do you got?
Hey, Tom.
Hi, Dom and Cooch. Yeah, I agree that they certainly underutilized AM 1510. They, like these people are saying, they should have been on, at least once a week. I think I might have been helping your show, a couple morning shows. Maybe that would have pulled out that extra 5,000. I wanted to say too that I think one thing's being lost. I can understand why you're angry, that they didn't, come on your program and stuff like that. But I think it's still an opportunity. It's not over yet, and I think there is a chance, with the recall. And we're not going to be in this position for probably a while where we have somebody so close, and there is a chance of her winning, and she's not lost yet.
Oh, the recount, you mean?
Recount. Tom, she's lost. It's an insurmountable lead, sir. I mean, short of some sort of electoral malfeasance, and perhaps Outagamie County, they had the computer issues last night. I mean, if we find out that was hacked or something, sure, game on. But short of something truly unusual like that, you're not going to find 6,000 provisional ballots somewhere. I mean, game over.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Let's keep going. One more caller this segment, 844-967-2789. Connie from Milwaukee, you are up. Thanks for calling. What do you got?
Hey, Connie.
Connie from Waukesha.
Hey, Connie.
Hey, I think we really underestimated the hypocrisy of the Republican Party. And to prove it, listen to Gary and all the conservatives who have been calling in today who cannot answer that one question that you asked them. Is it a deal breaker?
Because it's not a deal breaker, Connie. They don't care if he hates the gay.
I know it's not. And I think we really underestimated the amount of hypocrites in Wisconsin.
Connie, it's only been 13 years since a constitutional amendment in the state of Wisconsin made legal marriage only between one man and one woman. That's barely a decade ago. I mean, Scott Walker was governor for 8 of those 12 years. That's not ancient history in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I mean...
and Trump won in 16, if you have any doubt.
I'm not clear it's hypocrisy, Connie, and thank you for the call. Always appreciate it. I think this is just how they feel. They just don't give a damn. Oh, I hate the sinner or the sinner, and well, whatever. That's his personal life, and he won't use that kind of thought process when he's on the court. And since he's a Scott Walker guy, and we got to come out and push back because they've been getting their ass kicked at least the last time, and now of course the progressives have lost.
Well, it was a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because of course they want a guy that hates the gay on the bench. Come back with us, more Devil's Advocates.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcroot.com. Podcasts and interviews updated daily.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer.
That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org. P4ppc.org.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice. Sir, what should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
For News Talk 1510 and 1580, my name is Keith Gostad. On Tuesday, a federal judge allowed Wisconsin to drop out of 2 lawsuits over the Affordable Care Act. Withdrawing from the lawsuit to overturn the ACA was a major part of the campaigns of both Governor Evers and Attorney General Josh Kaul. Brian Hagedorn has declared victory in the state Supreme Court race. Hagedorn will allow conservatives to maintain a majority on the court. The race against Lisa Neubauer remained too close to call well into the night and falls into the range of a possible recall, with both candidates receiving 50% of the vote. Meanwhile, in Madison, Satyrod's Conway beat incumbent Paul Soglin to become Madison's first openly LGBTQ mayor. And Danielle Shelton won a seat on the Milwaukee County Circuit Court, defeating Walker-appointed incumbent judge Andrew Jones. Shelton ran a largely grassroots campaign and won 55% of the vote in Milwaukee County. For WRRD, I'm Keith Gostad.
And during the few moments that we have left, we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the day after happy hour. It's only 369 days to the next election in the state of Wisconsin.
Plenty of time to organize and get things going.
And I have a little advice. That will be a Supreme Court election. Again, hopefully for the liberal bloc to get back to a 4-3 minority from a 5-2 minority. But anyways, Ed Falone, friend of ours, fine Marquette University Law School professor, former candidate, and newly announced candidate for Wisconsin Supreme Court in 2020. Little friendly advice. Try some new consultants. And apparently the electoral outcome so emboldened Dan Kelly, he is the Walker appointee that will be up for re-election should he choose to run. But apparently he will choose to run, said as much today to Daniel Bice. At least I saw it on Daniel Bice's page. And one other footnote. Scott Bauer at the Associated Press. Apparently, reporters tried to question Governor Tony Evers at the Capitol today about the Neubauer and the possibility of a recount, and the ever-courageous governor of the state of Wisconsin walked away without comment. Per the AP tweet of Scott Bauer.
Did not respond to the question, just
Correct.
walked away.
Just walked away. Much like he did from the judicial race in the state of Wisconsin.
Why would he? This is a nonpartisan race. It's got nothing to do with politics. Just ask the Republicans.
Well, they did their part. The Evers administration, at least they spent the allocated dollars on informing the electorate about the need for voter ID, right? Helped to get out the word that you needed a voter ID.
No, I think that was us that had the
PSAs.
Yeah, the election commission person.
Oh, that we ran pro bono?
Yeah.
Because Tony Evers failed to even spend the allocated Scott Walker money to educate the voters of Wisconsin. So we did our part, you're saying, Dom? We actually tried to educate the voters, unlike the governor who walked away without comment today?
844-967-2789. Erica Flynn, our friend. Thank you for calling today. Erica, what do you got for us?
Hey, Erica.
Hey, Dom and Crudy. So I am hearing a lot of feelings. Of course, we're all disappointed.
Feelings. Whoa. Please continue.
And and this is, it's healthy, it's natural. We have to get our feelings out. But I think after we do that, I would like to call on everyone to think about what they did during this election cycle. Did you knock doors? Did you make phone calls? Did you write postcards? Think about how much you did and try to double that, for 2020. Double that. What more can you do to get the outcome that you desire? If this is really what you want, if you want a different road for Wisconsin, a different path, how much are you willing to work for it? Get out there and do it and knock more doors, because that's how we're going to get it done. We can play the blame game all day long. That does not change election results.
I've spent
my message out there. Yeah.
I've spent over $1 million. I think I have bought in my own permission to play the blame game a little bit, and I don't have another $1 million to double down with and do twice as much next year.
And maybe you're tapped out, and then you can't double it. Some people are tapped out, and they did everything that they could do. But I know there's a lot of us, me included. I know I could have knocked more doors. I am not going to exempt myself from this. And it's something we have to work for. If we want it, we got to work for it, because as Democrats, we're always going to be at a disadvantage. We don't have the money spigot that Republicans have. We have the people, and we got to make it a priority in our lives.
But Erica, do you think the priority, if we talk about the money that was raised, it's probably going to be pretty close. And at the beginning, Neubauer actually had more in this particular race.
14-1 more.
The priorities of this and the strategies of how the money is spent. Should there have been more of a ground game, a get out the vote game? And again, I understand that, resources are limited, certainly. But, what do you think could have been done more organizationally to change this trajectory that happened yesterday? Yes, everyone do more, but what? It takes money, it takes time, it takes energy. Who's corralling? Who's making? Who is the leader? Who is the person that is rallying the troops and the teams to go out and do that? Where does that come from in your mind, Erica?
Well, I know a lot of us were working hard to get out the vote, and Wisconsin did turn out, or Wisconsin Democrats did, or 45,000 more votes for Neubauer than Dalek got, right? If those are Democrats or independents or whoever, Neubauer got 45,000 more. So we were working hard. And I can tell you personally, I got 3 different flyers in the mail for Hagedorn. I got 0 Neubauer flyers. And those Hagedorn flyers were paid for by some outside group.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when they have the money spigot. They have all of these outside groups that can just pour $1 zillion in that we just don't have as Democrats and progressives.
But Erica, let's stop using that excuse in regards to this particular race, because that was not the problem. That was not the problem. Neubauer was at least equally resourced. Scott Walker still making the claim that she 3-1 outspent Hagedorn in outside money. And that wouldn't be surprising to me. I haven't seen the final numbers, but when the ratio was 14-1, don't tell me it was about the money.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to Wednesday night quarterback this race. I wasn't involved in the consulting. I do know that Nation Consulting was involved in both Dallas' race and Neubauer's. So I don't know if they just did great on one race and poorly on the other race. That doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know what happened in the race and why they didn't win, to be honest.
Erica, the turnout in Milwaukee, even though we had a greater percentage of turnout for this race than the Dallas race, Milwaukee was actually down. Why do you think that is? I mean, it just obviously it's conjecture. We don't know, but what's your feeling on that? I mean, presumably we could have overcome this 5,000 or 6,000 person gap with just the turnout that happened last time.
I mean, it could just be some of human nature where we're just kind of coming off this big win with Governor Evers and turning the state around, and we kind of feel like, oh, we got this. And so you kind of feel like it's taken care of, like that box was already checked in your mind, so you don't actually go out and vote. So I think maybe that was part of it. And I think kind of a silver lining to this situation, as awful as it is that I hope this lights a fire under us for 2020. Because we're going to have to really work for it in 2020. It's going to be crazy out there.
Yeah.
Everybody has to be all in, or it's game over.
Well, and it's going to take a team, and there's going to have to be some reconciliations, perhaps.
Yeah, but there's going to have to be a captain and a quarterback on that team that don't throw interceptions constantly.
Erica, other than the consultant conversation that we've had, and lots of our audience has also brought that up, so whatever that's worth, but they also brought up some of the ads that were put out this time around and the lack of available literature and signs. Did you see some of the ads? Did you have any thoughts about those? And did you have any issues trying to get literature and signs from the campaign?
Well, it did seem fairly late where people are starting to go out and knock doors with the literature. It seemed late to me. And I do recall seeing Facebook ads that were supposed to be against Hagedorn, but really just seemed to give him more exposure because like his name was prominent and there's a picture of him and nobody actually reads those, right? So they see the name and they keep scrolling. And so that's their impression. I think those kind of negative ads really have to be skillfully made, or you're just giving your opponent more visibility,
more exposure, right?
More exposure, and those ads just backfired. And I agree with one of the previous callers who mentioned about the ads mentioning the gays. There is still like a lot of homophobia in our state, and as soon as you sort of raise that. The crazies come out and vote. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Thank you, Erica Flynn. Always appreciate your perspective.
She was a candidate in her own right. At least she had the courage to get out and run for something, and we always admired that. Civic activism.
If you don't do it, who's going to? No. Thank you, Erica. Paul from Milwaukee, you are next. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us?
Hey, gentlemen. How are you?
All right.
Good.
I'm pissed.
It was just the pat response. Fine, great.
We'll get over it eventually.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I stayed up quite late last night, refreshing the damn phone every 5 seconds, and I just finally said, to hell with this, and I couldn't sleep the rest of the night, so I went to work like half asleep. But anyways, here's a story I have for you. It's a true one. I signed up for texting. I did this with the Working Families Party quite a bit for the Evers campaign. But when I went to volunteer to do it for Neubauer, they sent me this opportunity. Okay, I'll do it 2 days in the afternoon during the week. I signed up, and then when the time came to do the texting, I got nothing. No communications. Okay, all right, what's going on here? Nothing at all. And then they sent me another notice like, oh, you can do it now. And so I signed up for that. Nothing at all. And then, those are two instances of a poorly run campaign. And then I went over to Nation Consulting on 50th and North to get some signs because you couldn't call them. If you tried calling the campaign, there was no answer. In fact, there was no telephone number. And if you tried to email them regarding signs, they wouldn't get back to you for 2 weeks. So I went over there and knocked on the door. There's nothing, no one there.
Well, Paul, if it's of any consolation, Thad Nation doesn't return my calls any longer either.
Well, yeah, right, okay. But, at least they do, answer the door. But there was no one in there.
Give you a sign, right? I mean, you're basically knocking on the door saying, please, we want to help.
Yeah, and look, I got up with 25 signs from my progressive friends, and I was able to give away all of them. People were so eager to put those up. My whole neighborhood turned blue because of, the signs that we were able to put up. People were real eager. But the Neubauer campaign emailed me back, sorry, we're out. Why is that? There was plenty more ballot signs all over the city during that election. This is a prime failure. And, Neubauer could have come to Milwaukee more often and mingled with the African-American community more often, gone on the Earl Ingram show. This was a total disaster. If Milwaukee had turned up 10,000 more votes, which would have been easy to do if you got the people riled, got them going on this.
I'd be singing the praises of all the fine consultants that ran the Neubauer campaign. I mean, just that close. Missed it by that much.
Oh, terrible. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you,
Paul. Appreciate you listening and joining us and giving us an earful. 844-967-2789. I give a little and we take a little. Let's take another call, Dom.
Jake from Milwaukee, you are next. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us?
Hey, Jake.
Wow, it's hard to get on your show when people want to complain and bitch. Oh, my God, I had to wait so long. So
Normally, that's my job, Jake.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised because Democrats are good at grabbing defeat from victory because they just want to party too hard and too quick. But the one constant throughout of all our losses the past decade has been the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. They have been steadfastly there for most of the losses, and it's been most of the losses. I honestly think that the entire party needs to be purged, and it needs to start over from scratch.
Well, they're going to flip.
There's a problem.
Jake, here's the problem, as I see it. The old Democratic Party is now Nation Consulting. You know what I mean? They never go away. They're like bad pennies. They just turn up as consultants. Mike Tate, and I don't know that he played any particular role in this elective cycle, but Mike Tate's Nation Consulting, former DPW chair. I don't know what Martha Lanning will do next. I don't suspect she'll go work for Nation Consulting. I understand they don't care for her much either. But ultimately, man, they turn up again. They just become the consulting class.
Yeah, and they need to be gotten rid of and purged because, Neubauer was a good candidate and she had everything. But problem is we could have won this race with like 1.2% more turnout in Milwaukee, and it was not done. She did not go on Sherman's show, which reaches a lot of people. A lot of African Americans.
Oh, don't tell Nation Consulting that.
Yeah, but I think if you ask me, that's why the race is not even really contested. Because if you had 1.1% more of turnout, this would be a different story right now. And because this is where these midterms, you have to go to your base. Don't get me wrong. It's good to go out everywhere else and go all over the county because Dallas did the hard work, but you still have to go for your base. I mean, for this midterm, we actually did pretty well on votes. I mean, that is the only one plus. But who knows exactly why? Is it WRRD? Is it because people just hate Trump or people just hate Republicans? I don't know exactly. But it just wasn't enough to turn it over.
That is true, Jake. Thank you for the call. We appreciate it. 844-967-2789. Just a little bit more could have made it happen.
Well, thank God they didn't make us stronger. They tore us down and made us just a little weaker. So, we wouldn't be an adequate tool. I mean, there's no way I can beat down WISN and WTMJ in my current state. This is the best, quote-unquote, talk radio market in the nation. When you take the Cume audience at TMJ and ISN, you're talking about something approaching 15% of all Milwaukeeans are listening to right-wing talk radio right freaking now. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Your phone calls next at 844-967-2789.
When you control the mail, you control information.
Whenever I walk, people try to hand me out flyers. And when someone tries to hand me out a flyer, it's kind of like they're saying, here, you throw this away.
You f***ing Democrats! F*** you! F*** you!
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Wisconsin. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect. For officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joins us on the phone regarding our military influence. Aren't we selling arms right now to Saudi Arabia, and aren't they using, munitions that they have purchased from us in their war?
And if we weren't doing that, because they've got plenty of money, they'll buy less precise munitions from other people, and the bloodshed would be worse.
Well, the blood might be on someone else's hands then, Ron.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we're back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on WRD WTTN. You can join us on the phones. Last segment of the day, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we would encourage all our fine listeners to stick around. There's more live radio when we're done. Unheard of with host Brady Grayson. She debuted on Friday, and then she had a fine show yesterday, and I expect more fine broadcasts coming out of the Broadcast Bunker 2.0, the Unheard Of show with Brady Grayson immediately following this fine product.
Excellent. Let's keep going on the phones. John from South Milwaukee, you are up. Thanks for calling, John. What do you got for us?
Hey, John.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Listen, okay, I'm not going to sit there. I'm not a Republican, not a conservative, not a Democrat, not a liberal. I listen to both sides of your radios, and I find it really interesting. You guys are upset with the Democrat Party, how they did things, right? That they're not doing things the way you guys want it.
Well, they're not winning elections, John. That's my big contention.
But you have problems with the Democrat Party and what's going on inside it. I hear the same thing when I listen to, I'm not kidding, I was just listening to Belling, and they were complaining about the same thing. So I just find it as an interesting thing. I mean, because I know you guys can't listen to over there, and they can't listen to you and stuff like that, but I find it interesting that both sides are upset with their own party for, even though so far Hagedorn is in the lead, whatever happens, we don't know, they're still upset with their side, and you guys are upset because they didn't get out and she didn't go out on radio and do the stuff that she needed to do, and you feel it's the party, Well,
it's the party, it's the campaign manager, it's the campaign consultants, it's the decision makers on behalf of the candidate.
See, I heard the same thing about that one Supreme Court judge guy, the Republican guy who had the tuba. I don't know. He ran last time, and he lost.
Skrinak.
And they were complaining. They were complaining about who handled it and ran it.
Luke Hilgeman.
So there's obviously problems with these people that both sides have been using who are old school that need to go.
But, John, guess what?
Now.
They all got to cash their checks. Win or lose, they all get to cash their checks.
I know. They're like lawyers. They win. No matter what happens, they win. We lose. I know. So I just found it interesting as a, little thing that's interesting.
Well, John, we appreciate you giving us a little bit of your airtime this afternoon. We'd encourage you, more deference to lefty talk. We'll teach you something. At least we'll entertain you, John.
And thanks for the call, John. Listen, I think after a loss, an unexpected loss, I would say, I think obviously you have to look and see what happened. You have to digest and look at the circumstances of this particular race and, compare it to other perhaps recent races. I think that's entirely natural and appropriate to do. I just think it's a little too bad that some people get hurt feelings when their motives and their decision making is questioned, because ultimately, if you lose, you're going to get questioned. That's how it works. And welcome, we are here. We're going to do that because we don't think that Lisa Neubauer should have lost that race. 844-967-2789. Pizza Box Mike, you are up. Thanks for calling, man. What do you got?
Hey, 5-2. It gives us something to keep fighting for, right?
Yeah, right.
If it ends up this way. Here's the problem. I saw Martha Lanning this morning, and I was like, that was a bad one. And she's like, I think it was the way, maybe they texted better enough. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I don't think that was it, okay? First of all,
lame duck Lanning's on the way out, though, Mike. Who cares what Martha thinks?
Yeah, but I'm not even upset with that. I'm just like, what are they looking at that I'm not looking at? What am I looking at that they're not looking at?
No.
Instead of it, I'm listening to this message today, with Biden putting out his tape explaining that he understands. Joe, you don't understand, okay? We don't need people like you anymore. We need different people doing this. Just like your last caller was right on that. Both parties need to get, swept out, and we need to stop relying on lifetime politicians, you guys. Somehow we're going to have to change this. But this message of we have to find somebody to beat Trump, listen, that's a really low bar. Trump's such a loser, you shouldn't have to worry about that. What you should be out there doing is talking to people about real issues and how we're going to get this stuff done.
Well, Mike,
There's not going to be an easy path.
There's only one candidate that can do that and will completely turn the Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin on its frickin' head, and that, of course, is Bernie Sanders. When Bernie Sanders wins the state of Wisconsin and wins the nomination, Mike, I'm just theorizing that could happen. Right. That will break the Democratic Party because all the insiders, they're going to lose their frickin' mind when Bernie wins Wisconsin again, and then he beats Trump in the general, and he will have the assistance, if he seeks it, from WRD 1510 AM and WTTN 1580 AM. I will support whoever wins the Dem nomination. But ultimately, I'm feeling the burn down because he'll burn it down.
Pete from Milwaukee, you got 30 seconds. What do you got?
They don't take you seriously enough. I'm telling you, the Democratic Party doesn't utilize its tools. You're one of the biggest tools they could have.
My wife says that often, Pete. You're a big tool, Mike.
Thank you, Pete.
Want to thank all the little people that made this show happen. Want to thank Dom and Fancy Brian, and of course our fine guest, Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen. He is running for vice chair, he is the vice chair, running for chair of the Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin. His opponent, Ben Wickler, I believe, will be on the show, joining me in Madison tomorrow. Have a great day, and don't forget, if you want to blame someone, blame Dominic.
It's all my fault.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad